everybody. Welcome. My name is Dean. Time for the program. Full deck today, and I'm actually pretty excited by the whole thing, too, because not only do we have the regular fare, our friends that normally join us, we've got Lachlan Cross, we've got James D. Fiore as well, but we've also got a friend of ours, friend of yours, one of the greatest soccer players to ever play the game in a Canadian uniform, and what a day to have him here, too. Please welcome Stacks, otherwise known as Craig Forrest, one of Canada's greatest footballers, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you, Stacks.
Thanks, guys. I'm so excited about our national team. I decided to put an old jersey on and sleep in it last night, and I haven't taken it off yet.
Yeah, good number.
I didn't know that you were named after the guy that got whacked by Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, though. I had no idea that was a thing. Stacks?
It only took him 3 seconds to get into
to insult the
That's
guest.
not an insult.
I did it in the green room, so we got to give James a little bit of room here.
Yeah, that's right. I thought we'd started 10 minutes ago, and you guys were abusing me the whole time. So I was like,
hey, this is awesome. That's right. You tell him.
I love this show.
Shit.
No, that will continue, though, Stacks.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I hope so.
You know you're loved, right? Craig, of course, not just one of Canada's greatest footballers ever, broadcaster extraordinaire, is one of the voices of soccer, not just in this country, but if you know him, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And also one of the hosts of an incredible podcast, which you can get anywhere you get your fine podcast, one of Canada's biggest, if not the biggest soccer podcast in Canada, and one of the biggest in North America, with Brendan Dunlop, James Sharman, our boy James Sharman. And did Danny Dichio leave? It's called Footy Prime, by the way. Go and subscribe. Did Dichio leave? Is that what I understand?
He did. He took up a job in the United States in Sacramento, California. So he's an assistant out there, and he's left Toronto SC's system for now. And hopefully we'll see him back one day, because he's just the greatest guy. And obviously the first goal scorer of Toronto SC ever, and then went through their youth system, coaching system, and whatnot. So maybe we'll see him as a head coach here in Toronto FC in the future. I certainly hope so. Great guy.
He's awesome. Loved him on the show, too. So that means he's off the podcast, too. So there's just one less.
Full time.
Any drama when you guys kicked him off? Stacks?
Yeah, was he pissed?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to piss him off.
Does he have a nasty streak in him?
Holy shit, are you kidding? He'd bite keepers' noses and stuff. Like,
he's a soccer coach.
Seriously?
Of course,
was he a biter when he played?
He would do anything. I mean, back when he played and we played, sort of, especially back in the 80s, it was just it was quite a different game than we see today. Thankfully, because it wasn't very good to watch.
No, but was it because I saw some shenanigans. Craig Forrest joins us, Footy Prime, the podcast. We're talking about Team Canada beating Team USA yesterday in the World Cup qualifier 2-0. It was a fisting. It was wonderful to watch. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, we're going to talk about it in just a second. Top of the table, 3 points clear of second place United States. We fed it to every single nation in our division, and they're going to go to Qatar. It's like fucking academic. Nobody wants to talk about it. They are, dude. They're Team Canada, our Canadian men's national team.
Iceland still has a fucking chance here.
Well, this is what I want to talk about with Craig. Why is everybody being so quiet? Because you and I were talking about it previously. It's almost a done deal, is it not? I mean, top of the table. They got a bunch of games to play yet, but I mean, the kind of breathing room you put between first and third yesterday was fucking incredible, wasn't it not? To walk away with 3 points at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton.
Nobody in history of CONCACAF has ever taken 8 points off the United States and Mexico in qualifying, and not even close. We are the best team in CONCACAF. Regardless of the points that they need, they will qualify. And that's me talking as a commentator. Now, if I'm talking as a coach and John Herdman, it's like, hold on, just like we were doing there, right? Mm-hmm. Not done until
I was just being a dick, Stacks, but
done. It's not done. I don't care. I know. I love all that, but it's not done, and they still have to go through that process. And I've been texting with John Herdman this morning, actually, and they're enjoying the ride, of course, but they still have a job to do. And the higher they finish, the better. And they can also finish in a spot. Potentially, I don't know what all the mathematics are of that, but in a spot where they could be in a better pot. When the draw goes for the World Cup, everybody's put in different pots depending on your strength. So it kind of have a weaker side, a strong side, just sort of even it out a little bit, right? So the better Canada do, the better they could end up getting in the group stage of the World Cup. And I'm going to say right now that I think Canada is going to get through the group stage. I don't care who it is. I think we're that good. I really do. Forget about what's going on in CONCACAF right now. These guys are fantastic. And they're all well, not all, but they're tier 1 players in that side that are winning top leagues in Europe, from France, the German league with Alphonso Davies, who's, by the way, wasn't even playing in the last few games. And it doesn't matter. We have players in depth that can fit into those positions and pace up front, which is something we've never had. And that's a massive part of the tactical setup for John Herdman in Canada. But they still got a few things to do. But it's incredibly exciting. They will make it. But they still have, they want to finish as strongly as they possibly can. And the next job is now going back to a warm climate in El Salvador, where they'll try to pick up 3 points. And I'm confident that they will do so.
Mm-hmm. I love the Alfonso broadcasts.
Oh, dude.
Oh, my God.
Can I play you one of the videos of him? I think this is after Kyle Aaron scored the first goal yesterday.
They got to run that through the whole game.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But this kid has me, and this team has me so excited because they're so fucking authentic. This is Alphonso Davies watching from his home in Munich, Germany, because he
from his video game chair,
and he's playing it looks like a spare room. Who's that with him? Is that his dad?
It is his dad, I believe. And by the way, he's not here because of a heart problem.
Right. Oh, yeah, he's got like
That's
a little
what I keep laughing
myocarditis. Does he have a little myocarditis from COVID? Because he had COVID, right?
Mm-hmm. That's why he's not there.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, settle down, Fonzie, settle down.
Yeah. Watch this. This is why Craig told him to settle down. This is electric. This is awesome.
Yes. Go on! Go on! Woo! Finish! It's over! It's over! It's over! Let me go down. What does that mean? Whoa! Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
Come on, you can't, Craig. You can't, like, I got goosebumps watching that, right? This is one of the greatest footballers in the world. He's Canadian. He's not there, and he's watching it, and he's treating it like he's 7 years old, and his team's just won the cup, legitimately.
It's
what a
freaking
team.
Amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And you know what? I look at it, if that is his dad, I'm not absolutely sure if it is next to him. And what they've been through as a family, living in a refugee camp for years and years that Alfonso doesn't remember, thankfully. His dad must think, I love my kid. This is amazing. What the fuck is going on? And he hasn't got a fucking clue.
It's true, right? Like, yeah, like that's the emotions that are coming with this thing. Listen, we can talk about the game of soccer all you want, whether you like it or not. Locke likes to knock it. I'm way into it now just because of the national pride, and I know what's going on here. Like what's going on here is Team Canada. Like, we don't understand the scale to which soccer is revered and the players around the world. Craig, we in Canada have looked down on soccer for such a long period of time because it sucked. Like, you and I can both admit that. The national program has sucked. So when did this happen? Because you said it in one of your tweets where you're like, hey, listen, don't kid yourself. In the world, as far as World Cup qualifying, Canada is the story, right? They're the story. Where did they come from?
Well, it's been a longer road. It's kind of like the vaccine. You know, it probably started research a little bit further before that some of these anti-vaxxers think it did, but that's another story altogether. Mm-hmm. So we go back a little bit of time, and when Victor Montagliani was taken over as president of the Canadian Soccer Association, who is now the president of CONCACAF and vice president of FIFA proper. So when he took over, he had to make some changes and certainly do some things as far as professionalism that we complained about for generations that needed to be changed if we were going to compete in the sport that the whole fucking world plays. Mm-hmm. So he did that. And then he brought in John Herdman into the women's program that did an incredible job with that system and has continued on, thankfully, into the men's program. And there was a lot of naysayers when he got the job as a men's program, like, only in Canada we're going to hire a women's coach. Had nothing to do with that. He's a people person. He's a man-woman manager. He knows how to deal with people like I've never known before anybody. He manages to maneuver politically around situations like I've never seen a coach be able to do. He's been able to gather and galvanize a group of players that would have had their doubts about him right from the get-go, from the very first time he met the team. The teams have certainly have really grabbed a hold of him. And I told him, I said, I think you had him at hello, John, because they have just bought into you from the time then to now. And that's all the top players, and Alfonso and, Milan Borjan, 34-year-old goalkeeper who's standing on his head, lived most of his life, came through, the Yugoslavian war, and ends up in Canada as a 12-year-old, hardcore Serbian accent. And if you guys haven't seen his interview post-game,
Grew up in Hamilton, right?
it's pretty remarkable. It's pretty remarkable. And it's such a happy story, a good story, considering all the shit we've been seeing this week in Canada and up in Ottawa and whatnot, all that crap. But this is a positive story where you've got a guy who's come here with his family, who refused to play for anybody else because he came here for a better life. He was given that. He talks about schools. He talks about opportunity. He talks about all that. So it really runs deeper with our national team with a lot of these guys, that it's not just about football. It's way beyond that. They're actually doing it to say thank you to Canada. And I just find it remarkable, the side stories to all this as well.
Oh my God,
I think
Craig, it gives me goosebumps hearing you say that. Go ahead,
Dean,
Lon,
I just want to, I know you weren't definitive on when soccer started to take off, or when the program or the fans started to show up, but I think it ties in loosely to when hockey sticks started costing $300. And then Dad would be like, hey son, how do you feel like running for 2 hours straight?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, that plays a big part. Absolutely. The actual cost of it. I mean, now we've got to a situation in hockey where, I think Connor McDavid's junior hockey team, a Canadian at that time, I think 11 of them were paying $50,000 plus for academies. So, you blame your parents for not playing in the AHL.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point.
And
right.
You look at the wealth of some of these players in the AHL, and God bless them, they're good for them. But it's not, with Wayne Gretzky, guys like that back in the day, would they be able to do it today? I mean, I guess if you're extremely good, yes, maybe. But I can also say the same thing about soccer, because it's also getting expensive. To play competitive soccer at a very young age, it might cost your family $5,000-6,000. You want to go out and get involved in academies, and then you're another step again. So a guy like Alfonso Davies, you think, well, it's a soccer story. Well, not really. I think it's more of a community story in Edmonton, that they supported him because they didn't have the finances and money to put him in soccer. And I think 1 in 5 or 1 in 3 families in Canada can't afford to put their own kids into organized sports, period. So we've got to be careful in our sport of soccer. We're seeing it in the States. Most of the players, the women's players, predominantly white. And that's because of the cost of the sport down there, to be able to get to the academies, to get to the next level, to get to university. Mm-hmm. All of this is becoming a situation in the United States that we're seeing that it's not bringing everybody into the sport that has always been inclusive. So we're in danger here of that as well. So we have to be very, very careful.
Well put. And there's lots of
with
programs.
Alfonso Go ahead.
There's lots of programs that you can give that help kids get started in sport too in Canada, right? I think that's worth highlighting right now.
Yeah, for
I was
sure.
just going to say that Alfonso Davies, his bio, and Neymar has a Netflix documentary. I think it's only a matter of time that Alfonso Davies gets one of his own. Just like, the refugee camp beginnings is pure Hollywood. So I find that there's like you just mentioned, sorry, I don't remember what name it was, but just the Serbian guy, but just all these players that like seem to have a bio on this team that is completely like a rags to riches in a sense type story. These stories haven't been told enough, I don't think. Like I said, Neymar has his own documentary on Netflix. I watched it. It was boring as fuck. So, his bio is, my dad was a professional soccer player, and then I became one, and then I became kind of a dick, and I dove all the time. And that was his whole story,
You bring up a good point, and I think you're talking about Milan Borjan. Is that how you say his name?
Milan
Boyan. Milan Boyan, who's been, by the way, I don't know if you watched any of these World Cup
Save
qualifiers,
last night.
fucking unbelievable. Like playing, I've never seen him play before, but everybody's talking about how this is the best soccer they've ever seen this guy play. He made a one-handed stop in that first game a couple of days ago that could have drawn the game level, right? And I can't remember who they were playing. Were they playing
They were
Honduras?
playing against Honduras, and
Honduras.
then the one yesterday against in Hamilton where
Yeah.
he clawed that one above his head.
Yeah.
Remarkable. And we've also benefited, and surprisingly enough, you look at the Mexican national team, and Ochoa was playing in net. Now, this is one of the top goalkeepers probably in history of the Mexican national program. He's been solid at the World Cups for them in the past, playing in freezing weather. Spills the one for the first goal. Should have come for the cross on the second one that David taps in at Commonwealth Stadium. And then the American keeper on the first goal yesterday, that first shot by Laren goes through him. At this level, there's no way that should go in. And then he spilled one in the second half that he saved the second one on the rebound. So the importance of obviously everybody playing their part is massive, and we could go right through the team and how that's played out, and also the guys that are just coming off an MLS season that haven't played since November, and that's a guy like Osorio and even Larea for that matter, who's just made a move to Nottingham Forest in England. So you've got that to deal with. I know there was a late notice. The CSA found out late. I'm not sure all the details around it, but Atiba Hutchinson was actually suspended for the game yesterday. I just thought it was a tactical change. He was actually suspended for it. So it probably goes back to accumulation of yellow cards over time. And since he's 105 years old and looks like he's 17, they probably forgot.
Yeah, Atiba Hutchinson's like the heart and soul of this team, right? I mean, he's been around for all of it, which is incredible. But I want to go back to Milan and what you said, his press conference. I've got it here. And you made mention of what happened in Ottawa this weekend and all the stuff that we've been seeing over the past 2 years, people that are not grateful to live in this country, people that are not grateful to have what they have. They want something else. This was some of the most genuine, sterling, emotional, reputationally just uplifting shit I've heard from someone who values this country, and he's out there giving it all. And he happened to actually win yesterday in his hometown, which is like super fucking poetic, right? Like he's an immigrant, comes to Canada, his family goes to the Hammer, they live very Canadian lives, and there he is thanking Canada for this opportunity. Watch this.
I can say my part. You all know that I came when I was 13 years old. Canada gave my family everything. They gave a better life. They gave good schools, everything. So this is the way, my way, to return to Canada. And I think same with all other guys. It's we're one country. The Canada is multicultural country. And we fight for what's given to us. And it's given. Canada gave us peace. Better schools, better life, better everything. And this is just the way of us to return it to Canada. Just bringing them to the World Cup after 30-something years. It's it's something special. And when somebody gives you that much love and everything, you have to return it, and we're doing our best, to return that love to this amazing country.
Suck on that, Terry.
Right? Like, seriously, this team is reigniting my faith in this country because of people like Milan. Like, right? Like, after all the shit we've seen, I sat down.
I've been called a racist. I've been called a racist more times by white people this week, and I've had more fun with it. Like, I've never been so proud to be called a racist by fucking white people. Like, give me a fucking break.
It's only white people that call me racist, so join the club.
Right? You as well, eh?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and then you have this sort of, counter opposite to all that, and Milan coming out and saying that, and you're just like,
yeah,
thank you.
And most of the people that come from other countries, we all come from other countries. I come from another country. We stole the fucking land we're on. I mean, let's be fair. Like, let's.
That was the British and the French. So let's really be fair. Let's be really fair.
Yeah. Well, because the other Europeans were too busy taking over Africa and whatnot.
The
So
slave trade, yeah, I remember that old chestnut. Yeah, no, dude, like you bring up great points, and listen, like I know there's a lot of people that'll look at a guy like Craig and say, "Fucking stick to sports, bro." Stick to sports, but you had it. People had it in for you this weekend, and you had an issue with something that Joe Warmington wrote from the Toronto Sun. Now, just I'm trying to be a nicer person, so I will say this: Joe Warmington is a 900-year-old reporter
Where'd that
who
come from?
all he does is write about conservative shit and bullshit and garbage because he works for the fucking Sun. So the Sun
how
puts
nice
out
he's
an
being?
article. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Sun. Anyway, that's me
It's
being
really
nice. So
working.
relax, everybody, because you don't want to trigger me. I'm just saying it right. Just put it on Front Street. You don't want me angry. This
Actually,
is
I do.
Okay, well, it's coming. But
Just roll
I wouldn't
tape.
mind that.
my point was you had an opinion on it, and your opinion was because what Joe Warmington wrote was about Don Cherry and how Don Cherry supported the truckers, and I was fascinated that you actually went there. And then what I was really proud of is you took all the comers in the thread. You're like, oh yeah, go fuck yourself.
yeah, you know what it's like when you get involved. Well, you're involved daily, you guys, right? Especially you, Dean. I mean, holy
I've been staying off
shit,
my
man.
social media.
But you know what? In the end, I thought it was going to be really difficult, and it was in some ways. You know, bouncing around and some of their passion that they show. I mean, I like that part of it, right? But I also saw it as a real missed opportunity. You know, they're going there for all these reasons that are really, for me, so freaking stupid. When you know, if they're going there for talk about inequality and inflation and house pricing and job security and fucking, you know, on, and the billionaires that have increased their wealth by $70 billion, and should they pay their way? Hey, I would be driving up there as well. But no, they don't want to take a fucking vaccine.
Yeah.
Like, keep your eye on the ball. Like, seriously, pick your fights.
Well,
You're missing an opportunity.
I had a conversation with somebody who took exception to how we've handled the whole trucker convoy, and then I said, "Well, we'll give you your airtime today," and he went off, and it was a diplomatic conversation. And Dean said this yesterday. Stacks, he was talking about the fact that that's right, we were on all fucking weekend. Dean said that, you know what, if you put me in a room with some of these guys, we'd probably see a lot of common ground. And it's exactly the issue that I've had with this is that we're so divided right now. And the main reason they seem to be there is their hatred for Trudeau. And I'm like, I said to the guys, I just don't feel like that's a good starting point to accomplish anything. Like, you're allowed to have an opinion. No one's making you take the vaccine. No one's making you make your fucking kids take the vaccine. Why are you there? Why are you there? You still live in one of the freest countries in the world. Canada isn't the exception to the rule. This is happening this is an international thing. Countries around the world are all dealing with exactly what we're dealing with. Why is it so difficult for you to wrap your head around the fact that they're trying to promote a vaccine that saves people, or wear a mask that may or may not fucking work, right? Like, why is that so difficult?
Did you notice the irony this weekend, Stacks, and James, everybody? I mean, this is kind of directed at the group, but did you notice the irony this weekend of all the national pride coming out of Tim Hortons field, all the flags, all the immigrants that are like, we fucking love this country, and all the honkies, you know, driving to Ottawa to talk about how much they fucking hate this country. Did you guys notice the irony there this weekend at all? Yeah. Stacks, you notice it?
I certainly did. And, you know, I'm old as fuck. And I remember I've been to the Soviet Union in Ipswich. We signed the first Soviet player that was actually allowed to leave at Ipswich. He was Sergei Baltacha. And a short story about him, he lived there and his kids grew up there, and his daughter ended up being the British #1 women's tennis player. Sadly, she had a liver issue and ended up passing away at a very young age. But again, Sergei coming from the Soviet Union and making a life for himself in the UK. So part of that deal was going back to the Soviet Union. We flew into Moscow, and we bounced around all sorts of places in deep parts of the Soviet Union that just seemed like I was watching a war movie with all the devastation, but just in color, and saw what communism was, and certainly thought, well, maybe on the surface of it, everybody equal sounds like a good thing, but it's not working. It's clearly not working.
Yeah.
And the oppression. And then we went to Kiev in 1989, and we saw the protests there that were meaningful. It was something that you would support. And then I seen in 1987 the Chilean government and General Pinochet and his dictatorship and what they did to people in protests there, because at our hotel we had the Nigerians, the Italians, the Brazilians, and the Canadians, and the people wanted to somehow get their voice heard internationally, and maybe the media would give them a megaphone. So these pop-up protests would bounce up just on the corner right in front of the street, in front of the hotel, and they would build really, really quickly. And before you knew it, there was several thousand people, and they're protesting, and then a few minutes after that, then the tanks come down the street, and then they're plowing people over, water guns sailing. They don't care if they run over people or anything. And that was a time when he was trying to hold on to his dictatorship that ended up ending a few years after that. In 1992, 93, went to El Salvador after 12 years of civil war that was just devastating, and basically a country that had a government that slaughtered the civilians, and it wasn't a building that had glass in it. Everything was blown out, and I had piss bags thrown at me and all these sort of things, and we kind of laugh about it now, and there were challenges because you seriously didn't know if you're going to get out of that stadium alive. But I understand it, and taking the piss bags is the least I could do for what they had gone through, and understand where they're coming from and just how important it was to them, etc. So part of the issues about traveling around Central America was that it's the tangible poverty that can really I get emotional about, because it can fuck with your head, and it's incredibly sad.
So
Yeah,
now
that's
you can see why people are so pissed off about wearing a paper mask. Hey, Scott?
Yeah.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, as an empathetic human being, to have the life you've had, travel the world as you've had, to see real oppression, real sadness, like real human suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see what happened in this country, and kind of what's been happening in this country at a growing rate, which is this idea that this place sucks. Someone like you that has literally been in the middle of it, I'm amazed that you've been as quiet as you have up until now, right? And I appreciate, I feel you. I feel what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, it was actually, it was friends of color, actually, that brought it to my attention that it's sometimes more powerful when it comes from white people. And I never really thought about it that way, because I certainly didn't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. It brings you in a different world that you might not be comfortable with. And certainly it was not the case when I got involved with this mob. But like Honduras, like one thing that about this Canadian team as well is that some of the stars have aligned, like when they played in Honduras, which has been such a difficult place for us to play in, and really seriously not had some of the former players going, Jesus, like that was like soft when they went there, because the team's last place. So that was good. The country's lost interest. They just had an election where they just elected their first woman president ever. And that was touch and go, because the other guy didn't want to give up power, and it wasn't sure whether the inauguration was going to even happen. Happens on the same day as the Canadian game against Honduras, but in Tegucigalpa, right? So Tegucigalpa is where we used to play, and that place is just insane. I mean, San Pedro Sula, in the recent years has been the murder capital of the world, but I think it might have fallen to second or third place, unfortunately for them. And but
unfortunately for them,
yeah, exactly. If they wanted to keep top spot, I think they've dropped off. I think Cabo San Lucas might have that, but another beautiful spot. But a lot of bad shit going on. But the 71% poverty in Honduras is just everywhere. So when you're playing against teams like that, and you see them dive around, and you see them basically show no shame in cheating. And then I have Canadians, rightly so, because we grew up in a culture where we play fair, and that was the way we were brought up. But we also had food on our plates. So when you see that environment, and somebody says, "Aren't they embarrassed, like these soccer players and the way they play?" And I'm like, first of all, do you think they give a flying fuck what a Canadian? This is one of the poorest countries in the world. They're murder capital of the world. There's 55 people being murdered a day in San Pedro Sula. Do you think they give a fuck about what you think about how they play on the field when they're supporting not only themselves but often communities by what they're making in football, which isn't a very lot usually for Hondurans players. Some of them made it to the top level, but very few have. They play locally. They'll play with Honduras clubs, and all the time they'll have a gem that plays abroad. But it's a tough situation for those guys. So appreciating just where they come from sometimes might help people understand why they do it. Why they do it. Why does Neymar do it? I mean, he probably wasn't as poor as most of the Brazilian guys, but most of them are, coming out of the favelas, and in those places, they're playing in the streets. They're playing street soccer, and they're so devastatingly poor, and will fight tooth and nail. And the same thing applies for a lot of those guys. They support communities and families. It's not just themselves down there because they have nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's interesting that you touch on that,
yeah.
because sorry, I just wanted to say quickly that a friend of mine's a friend of mine, she's a lawyer. Her father grew up in Czechoslovakia when it was still a communist country, and the way that he talks about what he sees nowadays, and he separates the left and the right like this. The left seem to be fascinated with the exact ingredients that you need to become oppressed, the far left. And the far right seem to be overly enthusiastic to call something communist when it isn't. Because he would say that living under a communist regime, nobody in the world in their right mind would ever wish that upon themselves. And then you have the caravan and the convoy and all these protesters that don't realize how good they have it. It's like, if this is fascism, this is the most first world version of fascism I've ever seen. Like Lachlan, like you said it just now, like they're all mad because you got to wear a mask, or because they want you to be vaccinated so that you don't hurt other people. And it's a ridiculous notion. And then you have social media that amplifies those two sides more than they amplify anybody in the middle. And we're sitting here watching these two groups of fucking morons fight with each other all the time.
Yeah. You're right. And, I think in Canada, we're so lucky that, let's be fair, we're pretty, we're central, we've got some social programs that our healthcare system that's so important. And living in England for as long as I did, nearly 20 years, and seeing the healthcare system there, that was, I think it was put on by the Labour Party. They started it, and it's a treasure. I mean, one of the main things that we have in Canada that's beyond what a lot of countries have is we have this national healthcare system. It's not perfect. Let's not kid ourselves, but we have to keep it. We really truly have to keep it. Healthcare has to be for everybody. And
commie.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. So, but I get your point about far left and being in the Soviet Union, and then the far right. It's these extremes on both sides. This is the problem. Extreme religion. It's all the extremes that are a problem, and sometimes we have to sit back and think, what are we doing here? Like, what are we actually talking about? And educate ourselves.
You're bringing something up that I'm like, the more I think about this stuff, the more I think we might be on to what the root of the issue is. I think we all need to be more self-aware, but the lack of self-awareness, which completely, like the hypocrisy of some of this stuff on both sides, escaping these groups, is what's baffling me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm so bothered by a lack of being able to, like, even just seeing the humor in what it is that you might be involved in, right? And being mad at the presentation of the humor from even the middle, not even the other side. Like, I think we have to infuse some humility, and we have to bring back a little bit of, all right, like, let's check ourselves. Okay, I don't want to get the vaccine, but there's all these numbers and all this stuff out there that's presenting. Like, if I would have way more respect for you if you said, I'm not getting the fucking vaccine because I don't believe in it, but they're trying to use numbers that don't exist to justify it's driving me.
And as well as and I think it's like we have a lot more common ground, like you guys were mentioning with these people, I think, than we realize from the standpoint where, big pharma. Do we support big pharma? Absolutely not. They've killed hundreds of thousands of fucking people with the opioid crisis alone. Right?
Yeah.
They should have been fined way more than they have, and their court cases are still going on. No, I don't trust them. I don't trust them. Do I trust some of the governments? No, I don't trust what they do sometimes. But then when it comes to the science thing, you have to sort of weigh all that up and go, okay. And I actually thought it would change slightly, didn't you guys, when the statistics were coming out and going, okay, vaccinated people are getting sick, but they're not fucking dying. And at the same level, it's like, hello, risk reward. These are the same people that buy fucking a hit of E on the corner of streets.
Yeah.
Hey, let's
have no problem like smoking some guy's butt hash too. I mean, like we legit, like we can go through all the analogies of people that are saying I don't know what's in it, but they'll grab a half 8-ball of Coke and have no idea where that came from or what's in that either. So, but I was thinking about this because we got to get more specific to what you're saying and what Lachlan was saying. Like this weekend, we saw all kinds of people, but I was having a DM conversation with a friend of mine and I wrote something. And after I wrote it, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. I'm one of those guys. And I'll read this to you. I tried to process this weekend by understanding the general reason these people are all so angry. And I think it comes down to this. For every different background, those people are all under the impression that personal freedom is more important than anything else. In Canada, that has never been the case. And anyone who knows the Charter knows that. The proliferation of disinformation from America over the past couple of years, the pandemic, mistrust of elected officials, it's very easy to muddy the water with words 100% of Canadians can identify with. Politicians, religion, this is very important, and special interests find opportunity in this. Yeah. And they're basically playing these poor people, delayed people, into making fools of themselves in public. There were more people at Smash Mouth's last show than in Ottawa this weekend. That is a fact. That is an absolute fact. This was a theatrical event more than an indictment of Canada, in my opinion. We are not set up to allow the freedom of others to come after personal freedom. That's chaos, and a lot of change is being forced on a group of people unwilling in a short period of time. Throughout history, these major cultural shifts come with shit like this. Again, our most vulnerable are the pawns, and I believe all of that. Like, I believe that the things that we see, there's some agency behind them, the stuff that really upsets us. And I believe a lot of the people that you got into a fight with this weekend, Craig, are either there's something in it for them. They're working with some other people. Like you said it on Twitter, the bots came out. But one thing that I've seen in the last, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, specifically on Twitter and in analytics, the 90% are starting to fight back. Like just seeing Craig actually wade into the conversation, which he never has, and go, you know what? Fuck, what about humanity? Like, that's what we're seeing now. And in my opinion, if we want this whole thing to move past us, because, listen, most of us are vaccinated. There's people that aren't. It doesn't even fucking matter anymore. All the restrictions across this country are coming down because we're coming to the tail end of this thing. We don't need to keep fighting. Like, we don't need to keep yelling at each other and calling each other names and all that stuff. We identify it for what it is. But I will say this. The 90% have to start standing up for the fucking 90%. And I really appreciated the fact that you did that the other day, Craig, because that's what we need. We see so many people like Theo Fleury really kind of capture this movement for his own benefit, his own net reputational benefit, right? Then we've seen other people that are like, listen, I'm not wading into that fight on social media today. Fuck that. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't have the mental headspace.
That's me.
I've been exactly like, and I think it was all of us. I think it's Stacks. I think it's Jamesy. I think it's all of us, right? However, I don't have that gear. So
I'm just wondering if I should feel guilty that I think that April girl that lost her Facebook resembles Sloth from the Goonies' granddaughter. And should I be saying shit like that out loud and in public?
Well, dude, there's been funny stuff. Like, I want to play this for you. This is last night. These are the people. This is Stacks, to your point. I mean, this is why I was never worried about this thing to begin with. These are the people that tried to take over Canada, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know what that was, I could watch another half an hour of it though.
I got another one for you.
I saw a few guys at the soccer game last night. Are you sure I'm pulling up the same videos?
Yeah. No, the soccer game. I knew it was a soccer game because the flags were right side up and there were none adorned with Nazi symbols. So that was really nice.
That's true.
Yeah, this is another one. These guys, and listen, I don't think we should be interrupting media when they're doing media, but media is a huge fucking part of the problem. I will say that. And I side with these guys on that, actually. But this is some guy named Glenn trying to do a hit, and some French dudes were not having it. It's fucking hilarious to me.
Fuck you and all your media.
Tough to argue with that.
Like I was watching.
That's actually not bad.
I know. I was watching it last night, and everybody's going, "These disgusting pigs," and I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like that one.
That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's one of the common ground things that you guys were talking about that we could have with that other side if we were going to establish some sort of dialogue. Yeah, we hate the fucking media too, guy. Like
I hate Justin Trudeau too.
So, and as do I. I think, and it's so fucked up because it's just because we're polarized, right? So if we disagree with the convoy, then they're going to say that we're in love with Justin Trudeau and his hair.
I know.
And if we say that we don't agree with the convoy, they're going to be like, you're just the media's bitch. And it's just like, when they find out that no media would ever hire my ass in a million fucking years because of the things that I've said in the past, and also I think Prime Minister Conditioner is kind of a fucking douchebag. I don't know, like those must be the two golden paths that we can walk down in order to like find some common ground, right? Like that has to be a starting.
It may shock these people to know that, like Craig said it earlier, right? We don't like the government. We don't really give a fuck about Big Pharma either. We get it. We know they've been hammering opioids into people, killing people, trying to run away from a settlement. We get it. Like, I fucking hate them all. Yeah. But the fact that you call these guys out on their acting, the fact that you call them out when they bring Nazi memorabilia to a rally, the fact that they bring kids out for these massive, it's child abuse. I mean, you call it what it is. We call the behavior. But you know what? None of us are willing to go, hey, you know what? Let's sit down and talk about this because we actually agree on a lot of the same things. Because we just fucking hate you because of what you're doing in Canada. Because Canada was set up, and it's the first section in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that your freedoms are not more important than your neighbors. In the States, it's different, right? Like, we know that. Your personal freedom is way more important than your neighbors. But Canada isn't set up like that. And all of these people have no idea. They have no clue.
The irony is, freedom, the irony, we didn't make them do anything.
I know.
They didn't have to get vaccinated. These people that are in Ottawa right now, most of them are probably not vaccinated. You were not forced to. There's no situation where anybody's forcing your kids to.
But there are consequences that if you don't take it, that somebody has the right to refuse you into their restaurant or get on a plane.
Fucking right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But hold on. But that's new. But that's new. I'm not defending the other side, but we have to at least recognize that never before in the history of our country have we said, regarding your personal health, we need to know something about that before you can enter our establishment. We didn't handle that the right way. Can we at least agree on that?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Fucking right. Yeah,
you're saying there's been some messaging problems, James?
Maybe just a little bit.
Common ground. That common ground, James, that we keep talking about. It's interesting today. You mentioned the 90% speaking up, and more people need to do it. Like Stacks on the weekend, fighting on Twitter with everybody. I had a number of people reach out to me because we promoted the fact that I had this guy, Nick, who is an anti-vaxxer, hasn't vaccinated. And he wanted to get the opinion of the trucker convoy from somebody other than us making fun of it on the air. And I gave him, I gave him 10 minutes today on the radio. It's on our podcast. If you missed our show, The Locker Room, just type it in. It's on all podcasts. And I let him go. I mean, I jumped in a couple of times, I'll be honest, when I thought that, we might be going a little bit sideways. And he believes what he believes, and he has a very strong opinion about it. And the thing is I had truckers. I had 5 truckers reach out to me and go, I heard you're talking to this Nick guy. I want in on this. And they wanted to make it a fight because they're pissed off about the people in Ottawa representing them. I said, listen, I get that. I understand exactly what you're talking about, but that's not what this is on Monday. So I'm going to let him go. But that's that 90% starting to get, you can feel that 90% starting to get, because we're mostly quiet.
Yeah, and I like it. Like, I think that this was a great thing for Canada. Like, everybody got all upset that this whole thing happened. It was a wiener parade, dude. It was nothing. It was just these fucking people.
You had a name for it. It was something kegger, and I like
traveling kegger. Yeah, that's all it was. And there were lots of racists there. There were lots of people that weren't racist. There were people who behaved poorly. There were people who didn't behave poorly. There were guys that were legitimately insane. There were people that weren't insane. They were just
sounds
sick
like an
of this,
outdoor
right?
concert in the summer.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like I sat back and I watched after we had a couple of shows this weekend, Stacks, and we kind of covered it because Kareem was in there and we, broadcast the whole thing. And I sat back after the weekend and I had to figure out, like, why are so many people from so many different backgrounds who normally would hate each other, why are they all here, right? And why they're all here is they legitimately do not know how the Charter of Rights and Freedoms works. They don't know that in Canada, your personal freedom isn't the most important thing to Canadians. It is the freedom and the peace and the serenity that Canadians get to enjoy on a daily basis. And after that, your personal freedom comes second. So it's almost like the start. Well, it's not almost like, James, it is. It's the starting point. They're all wrong. Like they've been watching so much Fox. They've been on, ingesting memes about freedom and, don't tread on me.
Regurgitating the rhetoric.
Right. And so it really does speak to anybody that has a problem with government in this country. And I can tell you it's probably close to 100% of us. So it gets so muddy, does it not?
It does. And you know what? You know something? In 2 weeks, on February 15th, it'll be the 19th anniversary of the worldwide Iraq War protests. And I went to it in Toronto. There literally actually was 1 million people there. And there were libertarians there and conservatives and progressives, communists, fucking, gay organizations, Iraqi freedom organization. All of us were protesting, and we didn't do it in these little microcosmic bubbles where we were careful not to bump into someone who didn't think like us. You know what I mean? And we protested something that we all believed in. I know this isn't ever going to be solved because I don't know how you get rid of it, but I have just the sinking suspicion, and I think I'm right, that you remove social media from the equation and these things don't happen anymore. Like like we weren't ready as a society for what social media was about to give to us, which was just echo chambers and polarization, and it just exacerbated that problem. And now here we are trying to figure it all out when really, it would be nice to pull the plug on social media. And then of course we don't want to, because then our audience would go away and then ad dollars wouldn't be generated for the company X. And it's a really fucked up, it's like a paradox.
I'd like to clear this with April before we go any further.
Sloth's granddaughter has nothing to do with this.
Did you see that?
I tell you a story. I got into it with a guy that I ended up feeling a little bit sorry for, because it continued on, and then the bots got to him, right? These bots with no followers, and they're just stirring the shit. These foreign countries are foreign. They're trying to stick in. It's about split and divide. They've done an amazing job at it. And I actually got on there and I said, listen, I didn't mean to drag you into this. You probably don't have experiences with this shit. Don't get involved. Just delete them. Just block them. Do whatever. But I said, it's pretty effective though, isn't it?
It's fucking unbelievable, dude. Like when we do a live show and we have them in our comment section. The comment section is just full of Russian trolls trying to get in on our live stream, like legitimately. And so we have someone mandating that in the back end. To Lachlan's point, you're right. James's point, you're right.
Hold on, I had a point.
Yeah, you did. A lot of those people went up, and I'm gonna play this for you. A lot of those people went up, and I'm not kidding you, because their Facebook accounts got canceled. I'm not joking. They think that Justin Trudeau is in charge of Facebook.
This clip is brought to you by Hey You Guys,
including April.
I'm going to be here as long as it takes. As long as these truckers are going to be here, I'm going to be here. Because why? Because I think we should live free like we always have. kicked off Facebook, blocked, not allowed to post any of this live, nothing else. That's why I'm here. They shouldn't have turned my Facebook off. Now I'm angry.
Yeah, she's. I think she might be British, Stax.
Well, and she may have more time to floss there. Right.
Didn't I say something? I think she was in her way to get her $500 a week from the government that Trudeau gives her.
See, I think we're adding to the problem, guys. And I'm guilty
Yeah, but
of
if
it,
we
so
can't
that-
have some fun, then
We're
it's
only
not
having
us.
fun. We're only having fun. Some of them had teeth.
I gotta play this for you too. This is
Sorry,
fucking
James.
This is a clip that came out today, and it's them this morning. They set up. They're doing speeches apparently today in Ottawa. As everybody's hightailing it.
They're getting organized. They're getting organized, everybody.
And the organizers that are speaking don't like the fact that that people like us are like, hey, look at all the Nazi flags, a lot of white supremacy in the crowd. So she tries to dispel the myth, and it goes terribly wrong. This is maybe one of my favorite videos from the whole thing. It's fucking awesome.
So nice to see so many faces. I have a question for you. Okay? I need you to help me out. I'm looking for someone. I need to know what a white supremacist looks like. Are you a white supremacist, sir?
Yes, I am a white supremacist.
All right. There you go. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm just confused. And I'm sure you'll see why I'm confused. Because all I can see are freedom-loving Canadians.
So, did you think any white supremacists in the house?
I need to know what Canadians.
Any white supremacists in the
A
house?
white supremacist.
Yes, I'm a white
looks
supremacist.
Like. Are you a white supremacist, sir?
Yes, I am a white supremacist.
All right.
But hold on a second. But isn't the reason why that's funny to them is because that was a person of color that said I'm a white supremacist?
That wasn't a person of color. No, that was
I think it was.
Was
No,
there
it just-
any
I
That
don't
was the
think it
point. That was the point that they were trying to make. I think that was
that
a whole
kind of
big
ruins
setup.
it because that was funny otherwise.
Yeah, no, I can't see. Let me have. Yeah, it is funny. Let me have a look here. Any white supremacists? Yeah, I'm a white supremacist right here.
Supremacist, sir?
Yes, I am a white supremacist.
All right.
You can't even tell. You can't tell.
But
You
why
can't
would,
tell.
why would you ask a person of color?
Because they're trying to be ironic. They're trying to say that these people call us
Didn't
white
he have a
supremacists
yellow
and we're not
vest
white
on?
supremacists.
No.
Right?
Yeah, you mean because they're being racist? Like even that's racist if that's the case. They go, hey, go get me a black guy for this bit I'm gonna do on front of the stage. And
Maybe
cover
the
all
black
the
guy
white
volunteered.
supremacists.
I don't know if we would do that.
You know that a lot of people that were there, that were in Ottawa, are legitimately like angry
Crazy.
that they think that the Terry Fox statue was defaced. Like, and I've heard some interesting reasons from people that were there, from a friend of mine that was literally right there, and he was like, the iconic photo of Terry Fox with the flag on his back, that's how it started. Someone put a flag on his back and said, this is, and then maybe a joker came up and put a flag upside down, and someone put a hat on, and someone put a sign on it. So there are people that did something, but the people that were there when the flag was first put on the back, apparently it was like an emotional moment for them where they were like, yeah, Terry Fox, like national hero. He was always seen with a flag on his back. Put a flag on his back, and it was just part of the thing.
Wow, dude, I
heard
saw
they
a
were
lot of that
pissing
this
on it.
weekend. Yeah, there was a couple guys
No, they were
peeing on the
pissing on
bottom
the-
of it too.
Oh, I heard they were pissing on the Tomb of the Unknown
Both.
Soldier, which
There's
is
a lot of
fucking
urine.
awful.
Yeah, there's a lot of urine because there's no bathrooms. But
I don't even want to talk about that. That makes me
yeah, I
so
know you
sick.
do.
I get like just
And these are
get
the
angry.
pro-military people, apparently.
yeah,
Right.
just like
yeah.
I get
Well, they fucking
just-
hate. They hate
So
the
we
country.
step in and out of we step in and out of putting a blanket on all of them, and I find, and maybe I'm kind of tired of doing that, just me personally, where it's like they all pissed on Terry Fox's stature, they all kind of pissed on the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and I think it's important that we at least be careful with our language, like they are not.
Dude,
with
I
theirs.
was just gonna say the same thing. Like, not only did like the anti-vaxxers come after Craig, and not only do they come after me, and not only they come, but the ultra-vaxxers will do it too. And the ultra-vaxxers have been all time today. Like, I posted a video of an Ottawa cop today, and the cop was in the car, and one of the freedom fighters or whatever you want to call them one of the Flu Trucks clan dudes was like, "Hey, we're here with the cops. What do you think?" He's like, "Great day. Hopefully, you guys get your message across. Love the truckers." And you know what? And he went like this, like, "Hey, good day." And everybody's like, "Look at the white power thing he threw up." Like there is an extreme element. And Craig, you touched on it. It's the extremists from all these different groups that we fucking hate, right? Like that's who we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, James, you make a really good point. I mean, we can't group everybody together, but this is also, we're having some fun with it as well, and not taking it completely seriously at times. But we have to be careful about, putting that everybody, was all over the Starry Fox. Everybody peed on the stat. We have to be very careful of that, because that's not the case. It's a very diverse group. And like you say, they might be there just because they hate Trudeau. Somebody they don't want to take the vaccine, or they want to go across, a sporting event. I mean, they want to go to a concert. It's a various bunch of people. So we have to be you're right. We have to be careful about putting them all together. And that's one of the reasons why I love your guys' show. You guys are very well balanced, and we try to do our best, I think. And you guys do a great job at trying to balance all that together very, very nicely.
I think that's worth saying out loud, Stacks, and I think it's worth repeating, especially on this podcast, because we need
except
to
for Dean, though, that is.
Yes, but I will say this: the one thing that, and again, obviously, I mean, I say this when I know that I probably wouldn't be the guy to do it. I want to be the guy that would do it, but if I'm at a demonstration and it's supposed to be this thing, doesn't matter. It's in the box, and this thing in box B doesn't belong in box A, like a swastika or some sort of imagery. I would probably go out of my way, or at least try to encourage the group that's there for box A to say something to box B. Like, get the fuck out of here. This isn't what this is supposed. And I don't know if that's being done. I mean,
saw some of it. I saw some of it.
You saw a little bit of it? Okay, good.
Yeah, I did. Hey, listen, let's call a spade. Like, if we're gonna sewer certain people, let's give other people credit at the same time, right?
Yeah. I don't know if that's the saying you want to use in this context, but go ahead.
It's mine.
I remember having a conversation recently about with a friend of mine, Solomon Ahmed, Muslim. And we talked about some of this hate stuff coming out by certain individuals and that we've seen online. And I was ready to burn these guys at the stake, ready to take them out. And here's a Muslim that has got a better head on his shoulders than I do, that says to me, no. We don't want to burn anybody at the stake. People were different. People could have been different and changed. And I thought, well, that was certainly me when I was 16 living in rural England and being told things about Black people. I was different. I had a different view as a teenager until I educated myself over time. So we can also help educate them and get them past that. And because I wasn't the same person I was 30, 40 years ago, right? And I think that we can all change for the better and communicate in a much better way, that I think that we can find some common ground about this stuff that is so important to us.
We may have lost April,
when we talk about
but I
the media,
appreciate your sentiment.
Yeah. Craig, thank you. Appreciate you being here. The Footy Prime podcast. Get it anywhere you get your fine podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify. It is Craig Forrest, James Sharman, and Brendan Dunlop, who you guys do just a fucking awesome job. And you did a hurried podcast last night reviewing the Team Canada game. Go and check it out. I listened to it this morning. And listen, dude, I think you're wonderful. You know how I feel about you. I'm just really thankful and grateful that we get a chance to do some work with you and we get to talk to you today and that you gave us some time. So appreciate you.
Thanks,
Stacks.
Craig.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That was awesome, man. I really appreciate you popping in
Even though
today.
we talked about soccer, thanks.
Yeah,
exactly. I appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate it. And I know
We
you
found
guys
some
aren't
common
all
ground.
soccer fans, but hey, I don't care if everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon with this team, and even if they like the sport or not, but if they like this team, they like who these guys are, who are very likable. You saw some of those interviews. I don't care if anybody jumps on the bandwagon. I said we should all get on the train. I really believe it's going to be
and
an awful
Stacks,
lot
by
of
the way,
fun.
it's football, not soccer, bud. Okay.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you.
Just kidding.
One of Canada's greats.
You're
Thanks,
right.
Craig. We'll talk to you
My
soon, brother.
pleasure, guys. My pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much. That is Craig
awesome.
Forrest. He's one of the
I like
greats.
him a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he's
I
like
will never
legitimately
admit
one of
this.
the coolest cats on the planet, and he doesn't like he's so genuine and humble.
Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of me, Mubin, like a lot of me.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, the humble part especially.
yeah.
I will never
feel
admit.
it. I feel a connection to other humble, awesome people that are great at everything too.
I will never admit this to anybody, but I actually watched a bit of that soccer game yesterday. So,
Did you?
and you know how much I hate soccer.
I do.
But
Yeah,
you
but it was
can't help
exciting,
but get
wasn't it?
swept into it. Yeah, with the Canadian
Football.
pride. Yeah,
A little Canadian pride.
Oh,
Did you
footy.
watch any of that soccer game there yesterday, Mubin? Team Canada beat US? No.
I don't watch sports.
Way to shit on the podcast.
I obsess over
right, welcome.
my field. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that do you really? So this
I do.
weekend must have been great for you. You must have really sunk your mind into the craziness up in Ottawa, huh?
Yeah, I had to, right? I mean, middle of last week, and then, just kind of anticipating their arrival for the rally on Saturday, and then seeing, what came of it. It being Monday today, and I think they've finally figured out that the Parliament was closed on the weekend, and nobody's actually there. These guys aren't. I mean, they're not masterminds. Okay, very obviously.
No way.
They, yeah,
Not our best and brightest. That's for sure.
Thank God.
What do you make of it? Like, Mubin Sheikh joins us. He's a professor. He is a counterterrorism expert. He lots of work with CSIS. He educates governments on extremism. And what did you make of the Flu Trucks Klan rally? What's your take on it, Mubin?
Yeah, well, it's just an anti-Trudeau rally, really. That's largely the reason why a number of high-profile conservative politicians also openly endorsed it, and went out there and literally gave out Timmies and whatever else. They want to make this about truckers, but I mean, we all know, like, these are the narratives that we need to reinforce, that this had nothing to do with truckers. The vast majority of truckers are vaccinated. The trucking organizations oppose the protest. And the U.S. already has a requirement that you got to be vaccinated before you go in. So what I don't understand, this is just it's a continuation of the anti-vax rallies that we've seen going on for 2 years, with little to no response from the provincial governments. It's the governments that have said that, don't enforce, this, or don't hand out tickets or whatever. And so what this does is it allows these people to network, to grow and grow. And now they show up, they invade Ottawa, basically thinking that, by their sheer presence, Canada is going to unilaterally cancel all their COVID-related policies. And how'd that work out?
So
Invade's an
I don't know
interesting
that it
choice of
happened.
words. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I don't know that happened. But you bring up a good point. I mean, where does this foment, if you will? Like, we talked about it earlier, and I think there's a number of reasons for it, but there is a very, very serious white power contingency this weekend. I mean, the imagery that we've seen, and I'm starting here because I want to work my way up to the fun stuff. This isn't fun to talk about, right? When what you do speaks to people who hate others for the color of their skin. But how is it that extremism that we're seeing, because isn't that what this is, right? This is just domestic extremism on display, like it's theatrical more than anything. But like, how do you explain the attachment of so many different fringe groups, highly religious in many cases, highly libertarian to the point where they just legitimately hate this country? How do they all come together to represent what we saw this weekend?
Yeah, well, it was a spectacle of disinformation, really, when what's his name? There are too many pucks to the head. Theo Fleury goes on to Laura Ingraham and basically throws out this number, and I laugh: 200,000 trucks, 1.4 million people, and it just got uncritically reported and repeated by the usual characters, right? The usual cast: Donald Trump himself, Donald Trump Jr., Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, goddamn, even Elon Musk, right? Mr. Mister, he's making driverless trucks and he's putting out a statement of support for truckers. Of course, these people who are in the convoy are too dumb to realize what's actually happening. That they're like, yeah, Elon Musk supports us. It's like, do you realize what Elon Musk is doing? Like, he will literally put you out of work. So what you're seeing is, a conflation of all these groups that have been active in the past 2 years. Like you said, and we know this is not just to smear the protesters, because I will have actually a couple of positive things to say, believe it or not. The thing is that these groups have been active and doing their thing for the past 2 years, all under the anti-vax umbrella, because it's a certain type of ignorance that is celebrated within these groups, whether it's a white supremacist group, whether it's a non-racist but just anti-vaxxer group, or a so-called Christian group. They all have this level of ignorance that they share. And it's the same thing that you see in the US. At the end of the day, I realized that, man, we really need to do a better job educating Canadians on how our parliamentary system works, how the government actually works, what you can actually do. Yeah, and that's actually a good point, because they keep saying, oh, my charter rights are being violated. But it's like the Supreme Court of Canada themselves, they wear masks in the courtroom. So if there was really a charter challenge, don't you think that the Supreme Court would have said something about it? And they haven't, because they realize that, look, we're in the middle of we're at the end of the pandemic, I believe. We're pretty much over the worst of it. And once again, it's no different than what we saw during the Spanish flu in the US. You had anti-maskers. You had this whole anti-mask league, people who would literally go out with no masks and basically flip the bird to everybody who was wearing masks. They made people wear masks at baseball games and other sporting events. And so here we are. It's just history repeats itself, right? Those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. And those who do study history are doomed to watch others repeat it. And so that's what we're seeing. We're just seeing a repeat of the same kind of ignorance that we saw 100 years ago.
Can we talk about the media for a second? Because I understand why there was a lot of coverage this weekend, but what are your thoughts? Because I know that you're up to speed on this. People this weekend flying Hamas flags and protesting in support of the BDS movement, and just, the difference in coverage, not just this weekend, but just in general. Our media seems to underreport certain type of extremist groups. And the interesting thing is that they'll underreport the people who carry Hamas flags, which is recognized as a terrorist organization by our government. And they'll underreport, like, I can't name any of these groups, these white supremacist groups, that were there this weekend. I can't name them. Were the Proud Boys there? That's the only group that I can think of. So how much, my question to you actually is just how much our media bears responsibility for how ignorant we are about these groups on either side operating in our country?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I'm equal opportunity counter extremism guy, right? Like, I don't care what side it comes from. Once you understand what extremism is, it's supporting the use of violence to achieve political ends. You don't have to do the violence. You just got to believe that, yeah, that's something we should consider and think about. So, it's the same across the board. And there is something to say about the way in which media is attracted to certain protests over others. I think the reason why there was more attention on this was obviously because it was in Ottawa at the capital city. That was the one major factor. The other major factor is that you had open endorsement by certain conservative politicians. And so that, again, makes for politics, right? And the media of politics. So you have, MP so-and-so out there giving his interview. And so, of course, the media is going to be all over it. But you just did remind me of something that, when there's the Al-Quds Day protests that take place, they have Hamas flags, Hezbollah flags. And I asked myself, like, how is this stuff legal? Like, I get freedom of expression. You can dislike the policies of Israel all day, every day. That's fine. I mean, they have this conversation in Israel too. But flying flags of those organizations, I don't think we need to. That's not something. I don't know. Maybe I'm authoritarian minded. I'm not, but I don't believe that the Nazi flag, the swastika, ISIS flags, Hamas flags, Hezbollah flags, I don't believe they should be allowed to be flown.
Same.
There's no reason for it. There really isn't. You can still make up other flags, down with Israel, stuff like that, which is not violent per se, but it's not terrorist either. I think this is a conversation that we need to have, that I think certain symbols should not be displayed at all. And the fact that what was done yesterday at the war memorials on top of that is what really, it didn't just make me mad. It made me sad. Like I felt sad.
I was disgusted.
That it was just, that this is what it came down to. Pissing, urinating on the war memorial, literally where Corporal Nathan Cirillo was murdered. Just no respect, and it just shows what the group is all about. It's just ignorance and wanton, celebration of, freedom. They're no different than their counterparts in the U.S. And so thankfully it did not turn into something more violent.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I will say positive is that it wasn't violent. It was peaceful. And at the end of the day, it might be awful, but it's still lawful.
I had a conversation this morning that kind of struck me because, and I've had a couple of people trying to defend some of the imagery, and I kept stopping the conversation, and maybe that's my fault. I was just like, listen, I'm sorry, I can't do it. We are not going to have a conversation about a Nazi symbol. I'm sorry, that's where I refuse. I can't move past that. It's just wrong. And unfortunately, it tarnishes the entire event, in my opinion. Even if there are a bunch of people there that weren't Nazis, it was the wrong thing to present itself. And there was this we broadcasted all weekend. I don't know, Mabib, if you knew, but we were on both Saturday and Sunday. And of course, we talked about this trucker convoy quite a bit last week. And the conversation just continued on and on. I don't even know where my Twitter begins and ends right now, because I've been tagged in so much. But there was this one fight.
You're welcome.
It's crazy, Dean. There was this one fight about this band that showed up. And I don't know if you saw
the metal band, that black metal band.
Panzerfaust is the name of the band.
And there were people trying to defend the band, suggesting that they were using the name to bring up a point about the fact that they were anti-war. And I'm just like, really? We're going here? Like, and their fans are like, you guys
talk about the
ashamed.
Justification of all of it. Yeah.
You guys be ashamed. You're misrepresenting. Here they are at an alt-right, let's call it what it is, an alt-right gathering, wearing stuff that looks obviously Nazi. It has that feel to it.
Their band's German
name,
feel to
yes,
it.
that their band's name is named after a tank used by the Germans, and apparently they're anti-war. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about that. Like, can somebody get away with that? Do you understand what I'm asking? Like, because I was surprised that they were.
What do you mean, like, get away from the idea that can you get away with like old school? See, and this is the thing, that one band, the Panzerfaust thing. It was I didn't even look into it because I didn't care. Like, I mean, I was just whatever.
I left it.
Yeah, like there are a lot of. But like, can you separate? Because can any of these people? I think what Locke's saying. Can any of these people justify or separate themselves from any of that imagery that was flown around this week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, can I just? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Can any of them do that? Can any of them like justify any of the imagery? Because it's all like, I saw that a lot. No. It was like only 5 guys. We're not Nazis. I'm like, no, dude. If like you cater to that group, right?
Well, look, people forget, back way back in the day when the days of the KKK, right? Everyone wore these hoods. And then they realized that maybe we shouldn't dress like this, so they just turned in their hoods for suits. Okay?
Yeah.
So even now you have people who want to kind of display their symbols and their associations, and whether it's waving a swastika flag or a Confederate flag or a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, or whether it's a black metal group like this, there are going to be some who are like that, who are very eager to let you know this is what we're about. But then you have, so many others who are not so blatant about it. So when we talk about this convoy, for example, and while most of the people, we don't want to say most of them are white supremacists, but certainly the convoy organizers are racists. I mean, they're on the record being racist. They've said all kinds of horrible shit. So I understand, like, people are trying to be nuanced, especially I think conservative politicians who are trying to, because there's like tug of war between the People's Party of Canada and the Conservative Party. So maybe that's a reason for them to get out there and try to bring people back into the fold, or at least get them to convince them to vote conservative. But the reality is that these organizers, none of them are truckers, of course, and all of them are on record saying racist shit. There were some interviews that were even done by the CBC of Jonathan Powers, I think his name was, and he kind of played it off like, well, white supremacy? What are you talking about? I don't know what white supremacy means. But meanwhile, this guy's got like, and of course, Twitter does their homework, and they find out and they hear, well, here are these guys' posts. Here are his posts. And they're all racist and anti-Semitic and whatever else. So the organizers are definitely racist. The level of ignorance that is there when it comes to just science in general and politics in general is something shared by racists, right? So I don't want to say that the majority of the convoy attendees were racist, but I'm going to tell you that all the racists that were there were all part of the convoy. And they might not be overt about it, but I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised if you saw some of their social media posts. So I think some people were also posting the Zello chat logs.
Oh, dude, have you heard any of that?
Yeah,
It's
oh my God,
legitimately some
horrible.
of the funniest shit I've ever heard in my
but a
life.
day after the Holocaust Memorial Day, these guys are on radio making anti-Semitic jokes, and so it shows you that this is what they're about. This is not notwithstanding the attempts to launder the image of the convoy itself and members in the convoy, notwithstanding those attempts, these are the worst of the people that we have in society. A few thousand people who think that their opinion can overrule the millions of Canadians. I don't know why we let these people on such a long leash.
Well, two questions that lead into that. Trudeau gave a press conference today. I was going to play part of it, but I'm not going to bother because it's just such a downer. It's like, oh no. So, where have the laws and rules and regulations of living in this country, where have they been? Because the Canada I know, the second people start impinging on the freedoms of communities and groups, they're gone. Like, we used to go and grab them and give them a timeout and educate them a little bit as to how to be kind to your neighbor. We don't do that anymore. That's my first question. My next question is, can you tell me any cool like spy shit? Like, were there people embedded with this group? Like, were they being followed the whole way with drones and stuff like that? You know these people. You know how they've been surveilled, right?
Yeah. Okay. So the first question, yeah, we used to do some of that stuff, but I don't know what's happened. COVID crazies have made people so, even governments, they've just, and it's just so unfortunate watching governments like make this into like partisan stuff. Like, I hate partisan politics. I consider it to be like, it's tribalism. It's really tribalism. As soon as you start to think like, when you look at facts, and you start to weigh the facts through the prism of, well, what does my side believe? What does the political party I subscribe to believe? You've lost it, right? Like, you're dumbing yourself down, because now you're no longer viewing the evidence as it is by itself. Okay, so it's unfortunate that this is what happened, and we just let it go on and on and on. And I lamented this. I remember this very vividly. February 2020 was the last trip that I had taken. And then for 2 years, I didn't go anywhere. And from March, I started to count the anti-vax protests that started to take place, and watched zero, to very little consequences. So I'm not surprised that we're at a point where we're not telling people, hey, listen, you can't do this stuff or whatever. So that's
Yeah,
No, he's
sorry.
second, and
Yeah, I
he's
wanted
got,
to
yeah, I
jump
want
on
the
there.
I
Yeah.
got two questions here. Go ahead.
The second one, I mean, somewhat quickly. The Ottawa police
No,
chief.
drag it out. I want to know. I want to know
Well,
all
I
the
can
ways
only
and
tell you
means.
some things, right? But
Okay, good.
I literally did, like, because I was teaching a class earlier today. I teach a class on photography and surveillance, and I had a guy who came in as a guest speaker, and he is literally in Ottawa right now, assisting some of the agencies there with some security stuff. So, Ottawa Police Chief Peter Slowly, awesome guy. He came out and said, "Look, we will be taking videos and photos of the entire event in support of any prosecution or criminal charges that we may lay later on." So, number one is everybody who went down there, their faces, their license plates, their trucks, they're all captured on police video. So so you're talking about, so that just happens anytime there's a protest, especially at Parliament Hill, especially where they were hearing things from. What shocks me is that those lunatics from Diagolon or whatever they're called, the guy who was basically openly saying we need to have a January 6th attack, a truck rammed through the walls of the Parliament building. That is open incitement of terrorism. That person should be charged. Because I had this conversation, I remember years ago when the whole ISIS thing was happening. This was a case, Aaron Driver, white kid from Winnipeg or Edmonton up there. And, there was a whole thing about some attack happened, and he was glorifying the attack. He was saying, yes, it's great that attack happened. Right on. And everybody said, oh, well, there's a fine line here because the incitement part comes where you say, and that attack should happen here. So at that time, that they couldn't charge him with any kind of crimes in that regard because he didn't incite anybody. He didn't say, yeah, though that should happen here. And then I hear these guys saying exactly that, and of course there are no charges, right? Yeah. So there's a blatant double standard when it comes to like what kind of charges we apply. So long story short, yeah, they've been all their information. Oh, I don't want to say all their information, but of course, there are police drones up there monitoring everything.
So I had a couple conversations,
and there are undercovers in the groups for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's because I had a couple conversations with people who knew of people who were embedded with this group, literally from Jump Street. Like, and one of the stories that they told me, and I was laughing last week. He's like, "Bro, he just told me that it's legitimately just a convoy of people throwing bags of feces and urine out the window and getting wasted all the way there. Like if they were in the back seat, it was always like stop to grab a case of beer. Then they'd throw their empties out. Like they legitimately left a trail of Alberta from British Columbia all the way to Ottawa.
Oh, I would have been drunk
the fact
the
that there are no
too.
charges,
I can't be too judgy.
There are no charges on these things is what bothers me. I support the police and what they're trying to do. It's the Ottawa police. They're trying to make sure they can't take a position. Look, they're the cops, right? Like they can't openly take a position. But then when you start to see this stuff that, just do basic policing, right? Like if these people are, open containers of alcohol or driving under the influence, like these are things that should be policed. Unfortunately, they're so busy. The police are just trying to facilitate the removal of these people that the fact that there are no charges, maybe charges will come later. I'm hoping the people who were on the Parliament on the war memorial, desecrating the war memorial, I hope they get charged. But there could have been traffic stuff that the police could have charged them with. I understand they're trying to de-escalate and not escalate things further by like an open confrontation, but the public is seeing this and the public is looking at this and saying, when there was an Indigenous protest, the RCMP literally came out with like tactical gear, carbine rifles, and the whole kit and caboodle. And
I'm
how
glad
do you
brought that
explain
up.
Yeah.
So, a native friend of mine brought that up a lot this weekend.
Yeah, blatant double standards in the way that
you can tell there was no natives there. He said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of hypocrisy to go around. It also is weird because when I went to that Iraq protest and when I went to, I think it was 2010 or 2011, the G20 protest, which I covered as a journalist. The bad actors for those protests, especially the G20 one, were twofold. In the G20, you had these black bloc protesters, but then you had these undercovers, these what they when the protest is about left-wing issues, what they call the undercovers is agent provocateurs.
Right.
I don't know if this protest had that, because I think there's a big difference between agent provocateurs, which is more like a federal agency or a military type person, and the type of people that Dean might be talking about seems more police. But we don't talk about that, and I find that interesting. So if you could comment on that. And then the other thing is that in 1978, the ACLU went to court and represented Nazis that were marching through Skokie, Illinois, and defended their right to do so. And so I'm a little bit torn on whether or not symbols should be banned in public for two reasons. One is that there is a very good free speech argument that it's just a piece of cloth or whatever. And then the other reason is that I still believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. And if some piece of shit wants to wear their swastika on their arm, fucking let him, so we all know where he is. I'm sort of in that camp.
Yeah. No, these are good arguments, of course. Just on the first point, so usually, I mean, agent provocateurs usually do appear in riot situations and protest movements. And those are, I consider them to be unsavory tactics where, a police employee or a human source that is employed by the police goes above and beyond what the protest group is already manifesting. So that's where I draw the line. And in fact, even when I was an undercover, this is what I was told, is that you match the rhetoric of what the bad guys are doing. You don't go beyond it. Okay. So
you don't want to incite them.
You don't go beyond it. So if you are in a gaggle of white supremacists and neo-Nazis and your undercover or human source carries a swastika, that's not provocateur. That's like they're an undercover. They're doing exactly what everyone else around them is doing. Okay. So that's what provocateur and agent provocateur actually is. Having undercovers, of course, inside is necessary for investigative purposes and so on. On the second point about the free speech argument, and this is a very powerful argument, right? And I like the idea that, I want to know who the Nazi is, right? Because he's going to show up there with his flag and his armband and whatever else.
Yeah.
And he's going to go there with his phone and he's going to post from his account. And the other side of free speech is that now or just free discourse is that you're putting this stuff online. People are going to find out who you are, where you work, where you live. That's just also the other part of the double-edged sword. So I'm totally, I mean, this is the debate that we're having. I mean, it's a very legitimate debate, but I just, some things I think, like terrorist groups, terrorist flags or swastikas in particular, I would want to ban. I mean, there are some other things I think they can still get away with, okay, by showing their racism or whatever else. We're not gonna, legislate racism away, that's for sure. But I just found that certain ones that are just too egregious that, there's just no free speech benefit, and that's why I kind of think they should just be burned. The flag.
Don't disagree at all.
And
I'm a big proponent of personal freedom. I think we all are. Mm-hmm. It's another one of the things people say to us when we're like, hey, look, there's a Nazi with an upside down Canadian flag covered in swastikas at the parade, and they're like, you just hate freedom. And I'm like, that's one of those things that they say to me, and none of it ever makes me angry, but that's one of the things they say to me where I'm like, I got to think for a second, I got to calm down, and I need to either mute or block this person, because it's the one thing that I go back to all the time that starts out in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which says you have the freedom to do whatever unless that freedom impinges on the greater good. Then you're fucked, right? That's why, like, the fact that our governments have shown no ankle, right? Justin Trudeau today standing up there going, let's all settle down, everybody. And then he called them all tinfoil hat wearers, and that'll rile them up again. So no leadership there, no leadership provincially, none of that stuff. And as much as I liked it and thought it was funny, and as much as I think he's absolutely 100% correct, I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If domestic extremism doesn't get dealt with, Mubin, it will get worse and something terrible will happen, correct?
That's exactly the concern, right? Is that they, so even if you look at this event, they will portray it as a victory. that they were all able to organize. They were all able to get down there. It was peaceful. It wasn't, it didn't become anything violent or whatever else. They need legitimacy for their movement. And that's why they've been trying to tell their supporters and convoy attendees to be very aware of these sorts of things. So their end goal is to develop legitimacy. And what they do is they kind of skirt around the lines of criminality, because nobody's going to join you if you're an openly criminal group. And so what's been happening for the past 2 years is it's just we've let it grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
And once you start to get more and more people in, and more of those people subscribing to these, ridiculous, like fantasy conspiracy theories, a small number are going to be born out of that who will end up doing something very violent and very tragic. And in fact, that's already occurred. Just the same day, January 29th, Saturday, was the 5-year anniversary of the Quebec mosque attack, where, a Trump supporting Frenchie, did just that. He felt that, Muslim immigration, blah, 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 saw a bunch of Muslims, said, let me shoot them. Right. And so they had to cancel the rally or the memorial for that event because of this anti-vaxxer convoy. Right. Mm-hmm. Omni convoy is a term I heard on. So it just shows you that what's happening is it is giving air and is giving oxygen to that network to grow and grow and grow, and we're watching it get worse before our very eyes.
Trudeau fertilized it today. Trudeau fertilized it a little bit.
Yeah.
Statement.
Well, him existing fertilizes them, right? So
but him literally, like, if you look at what he said and you put it on a whiteboard before you say it, there is literally no net gain for saying that statement. There's only net loss for saying it. And it just doesn't make
in his
any
position sense. He's got no option, right? It doesn't matter what he says. If he says something, it does
matter.
Yeah.
You could have because it was peaceful, right?
Yeah.
He could have stood on the fact that there, despite the fact that there was imagery that I found repugnant, and despite the fact that I wish there were more people that were part of the caravan would have said something to those repugnant people, I do like that it was peaceful, and I hope we can all find a way to get on the same page. Good night, everybody.
Maybe
just
nice. You need to hire this guy for his PM's comms.
You put some edibles in me, and I'll be writing shit for fucking everyone.
Locke, you wanted to ask a question?
Well, first off, I want to take a minute. I have actually been listening to your podcast. You and Brandon have excellent chemistry.
Spies like us. It's awesome. Download it anywhere you get podcasts.
It's fascinating. You guys, again, are fantastic. If you're looking for another podcast to add to your rotation, I would highly recommend it. It's on Spotify. Not that we should be promoting Spotify today.
Yeah, but other platforms as well.
Yeah. I have a question for you. And it ties into the political thing, and it actually ties into a local story. So our political MP here in St. Albert decided to go, and then he's on camera, and surprisingly, there's swastikas in the background. And then he's got to make a statement.
Is that Michael Cooper? Is that your MP?
That's Michael Cooper, yeah. He was a Starbucks barista before he got elected. So he went from making $27,000 to $227,000 a year. That's the country we live in. Yeah. The land of the free and the what?
Anything can happen. Dude, anyway, we got a guy on the podcast in Mubin Sheikh. One day he comes back from Syria. The next day he's a fucking spy for Canada. It works like that.
Sometimes. It does work like this. So here's my question. And we've gone back and forth about how politicians should have been involved, whether they should have been involved. Should have Trudeau said this or that? And now we're dissecting the press conference from today. Was there any way politically to handle this? And then I'll give you my idea for Trudeau after we get your answer. Is there any way any politician could have negotiated these waters other than just sitting at home in their rumpus room and drinking a beer
or going to validate it? That was the other thing they did.
I don't think so, because if you understand the pathology of politics, right, and the politician, it's all about visibility, so that you can get votes, right? Or somehow, support even within the party ranks, you know, maybe you kind of
Yeah.
show yourself that you're like the, you know, the up and comer, and so give me the cabinet position or the shadow position or whatever. I think the pathology of politicians is that they cannot leave it alone, right? If they see an opportunity, they're there, right? And it's, I don't know if it's, I'm trying to be like, because I don't like to be political at all. Like, I hate partisan politics, and I don't like, especially what I do, national security, counterterrorism, etc. I cannot do it through a political lens. But I almost feel like at some level, some of them must be sociopaths, right? Like, and I mean this in a very matter of fact way, like, not to insult them or whatever, but like in a matter of fact way, that you can only have this level, like, for you to think only that way. How can I use this situation for political gain, or for my political gain? And that's just, it just shows a level of, I think, sociopathy and malfunction, that this is exactly why politicians will hitch their convoy, so to speak, hitch their wagon to the convoy.
Well, it's
Because
why
it
we
works
all
for
hate
them.
them. It's
Yeah.
why they
Well,
hate them. It's why
yeah.
we
So
don't
glad I
like
asked that
them. It's
question.
why that's a great
They're
question.
just, yeah, they're generally just awful people.
So
Yeah.
here's my idea for Trudeau, and tell me if you like this idea or not. And I came up with this on the weekend, and these guys kind of shit on it. I said that he should have walked out in front of everybody on the steps of the ledge with a bullhorn, or like a horn, or whatever the hell you call those things, and just said, "Get off my fucking lawn."
Oh God, I don't think it would work for him. Yeah,
No.
Yeah, he wouldn't sell it.
But why do I want a prime minister like that so bad? Like, you know,
yeah.
I would vote for that guy.
It's the reason why everyone loved that New York governor. Remember Governor Cuomo?
Yeah.
Before it
Yeah.
turned out he
Well,
like raped
that, and he was
7,000 women or whatever it
drunk,
was.
too.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if he raped him. I think he was just very inappropriate.
Yeah,
when
sorry,
a
they
little
were by
harassment.
themselves.
Sexual
A
harassment.
little forward.
But
yeah, that's
but
what
everyone
it says.
loved
It's a
it because he
little
was
forward.
like, he was basically like, hey, fuck you, Donald
fuck
Trump.
yourself,
And everyone's
yeah.
like, yay, this is
Yeah.
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 Yeah, like with this whole thing, obviously it had juice, and it had some dark money, and it had political operatives that are involved in this thing. They all are.
Oh yeah.
But this whole thing could have been legitimately solved by, you know, the leader of whatever provinces started in saying, you know, not my Canada. You guys aren't doing this. You're not fucking making it worse at the end of a pandemic for a bunch of people that are just trying to get by, right? Like, and I go back to the same thing all the time. That group is, for a multitude of reasons, so disconnected from reality, Mubin, is they think this is happening to them. Meanwhile, 90% of us just know that it's happening, and we're just fucking cracking on with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the unfortunate part, is that it's the tyranny of this minority, and even if you just look at the way, and I was really fascinated with the disinformation context of this, how, you know, this message gets put out, and then it gets amplified by certain people. You have all this money coming in suddenly, like individuals donating 20,000, 30,000. Like, number one, you have that kind of money to dump into a thing like this. You know, and then we hear about them, like they were just thugs, right? Like, it was just thuggery, you know, coming in, oh, why are you wearing your mask, blah, 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 and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, going to the, what was it, the Good Shepherd over there, the
Stealing food, yeah.
stealing food from, like, you know, and then just the most awful kind of people, you know, and the fact that we allowed them to invade, you know, the capital city like that, albeit, again, like, you have to, it is a lawful protest in the sense of it wasn't violent. Okay. It's not illegal for you to go there and honk your horn for 8 hours straight. We get all that, right? Like, people will, I think most
Is that why
people
they call us honkies? Is that why they call us honkies? Because we do that?
I didn't want to make the joke, but somebody actually said that. They're like,
I'm allowed.
honky's gonna honk, right? Right. That's your,
Yeah.
the H word. Is it the H
That's
word?
the H word, buddy.
Okay,
That's
all
right.
right.
Don't want to hear you
No,
saying the H word.
I
my
looked
friend.
up the term honky. It comes from the American Slavic donation to the word bohunk, and in
Why
the
are you trying
United
to ruin our
States, when
good
the-
time, man?
well, I'm just letting you know
You're
it's
giving
not a
us the
slur.
etymology of
Yeah.
well, actually, honky means blah blah
Honky
blah.
I thought-
is
I
like the
thought
long
cracker-
form version of bohunk. It's just so you know.
I thought they called us crackers till like 3 years ago because of these.
No.
I had no idea it was
Maybe in
because
the
we
U.S.
cracked
In the
whips.
U.S.,
I had no
crackers
fucking idea.
yeah.
Did you guys even know that before I just went like that?
Yeah,
'Cause
I did.
they don't call us crackers because of the shit that we eat. They call
Yeah,
it
I know.
because we cracked whips.
I know.
Anyway, sorry for the.
Oh, I didn't
left
know
turn,
that.
Everybody.
Didn't
I
know that.
did not know that. Okay.
No, I
Really?
was the only person that knew that, so I'm smarter than a guy that teaches professors and Lachlan. This is a great day.
What about me?
This is I was always smarter.
Well,
than you.
I am bringing the bar down considerably, so don't get too excited.
Okay, so last dude, I know you got to get cracking. I love having you on. By the way, Mubin Sheikh, Spies Like Us, is where you can find him. His podcast is absolutely tremendous. I think episode 3, if I'm not mistaken, deals legitimately with domestic extremism, right? So let's say you get like an hour with Justin Trudeau, and he's like, "We need to end this shit." What do you do as a domestic extremist terrorism expert? What do you do? What should we do? You're the guy.
All right.
Trudeau is in front of you. He's like, Mubin, help
Yeah.
me fix this shit now.
All right. Multi-prong approach. Okay. It's going to require, obviously, on the educational side of things. So this is where educational institutions, community service organizations really mobilize their communities and inform and educate people on how we are expected to behave with each other in Canada as Canadians. Okay, so there's an information education component. Teachers maybe needing to correct some of the views of their students, giving opportunities to aggrieved populations or groups to be represented in those classes for students to see this is what, a person from this community, this is what they went through, learn what they went through so that you understand what happened. And that it can include, Jewish communities, Indigenous peoples, Black peoples, you name it. We've screwed over so many people. There's going to be a long line of people waiting to come in. So information, educational component, and then the enforcement component. One of the biggest things I'm a big believer in, of course, is dismantling these groups using undercovers, using prosecutions. Sometimes you might even just need to go and talk to, especially if it's a young person, go and talk to their parents, and say, listen, your kid is doing this online. Look at the posts that they're putting online, right? And so sometimes, actually, a lot of times that itself will stop, especially when it comes to young people. But the older people, there need to be repercussions, right? People need to understand that you cannot just do this. And maybe even companies need to be supported when it comes to, if they find out that, listen, these are people who, these are the attitudes that they have. I don't want to continue to employ this person because this looks bad for me and my company and so on and so forth. So multi-pronged approach, soft aspect of it and a hard aspect of it. That's the only way we're going to do anything about it.
So education and whooping that ass.
Education and a little bit of tough love, let's call it.
Tough love, as you say.
You
Yeah.
know what?
Isn't
The
this
best thing
not
he
like?
could, you know what the best thing he could do? Seriously, just because it's been that long, fucking resign. It's seriously.
It's not, dude. It won't fix the problems that we have out west. It's not going to fix the problem that we have with domestic extremism in this country. It's still there.
It will turn down the heat a little.
I think his time, I think his shelf life has worn off a bit, and I think we'll see that whatever happens in the next election. Whatever. I don't really care for
Prime Minister Freeland. Right. Everybody, it's coming.
I thought it was going to be during the last $640 million election we didn't need.
Yeah. Well, this is the problem with minority government, right? Minority government, and if the parties aren't cooperating, they just
wait. It's not minority government, dude. It's government of color. But go ahead.
Funny guy. There's not much that can be done, right? Like if the political parties don't play along, they just keep showing, oh, look how terrible it is under Trudeau, look how terrible it is. Just keep, that's why they endorse this convoy, right? That it puts the pressure on Trudeau. It makes, puts the pressure on Ottawa, makes everybody look bad. Everyone thinks, oh, look how bad everything is in Canada.
Right.
So let me just leave with this, that it's not that bad in Canada, right? We're doing much, much better than most countries in the world.
Bingo.
Many of whom haven't even received one dose of vaccination, never mind boosters and boosters plus. But let me leave with this. I even put it on Twitter. I think within the next few months, you're going to start to see a steady decline in these COVID regulations. Mark my words, by summertime, everything's going to be open. And in the fall, all of this will just be a distant memory. So
Mubin Sheikh, appreciate you so much.
you're right,
Thanks for stopping by. He's a counterterrorism expert. You know him and seen him from CNN, professor of public safety, Seneca College, servants, obviously the Parents for Peace thing you do. And go and follow this guy on Twitter at Mr. Mubin Sheikh, at Spies Pod. And download their podcast wherever you get your fine podcast. It's called Spies Like Us. Really appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Take
Great
care,
to
man.
talk to you. Mubin Sheikh, ladies and gentlemen, one of the nicest cats on the planet. And I think he knows a lot more than he told us about the embedded officers with that shark group.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I wanted to know more, but I didn't want to push him. Like I push him sometimes for like private information, but I didn't want to completely push him over the edge because I'd like him to come back.
Plus, if he doesn't know, he could still smirk like he does, and it would all be mystique.
Yeah, all he's got to do is go like this.
Well, he did kind of do that. He kind of said, "I can tell you a little bit, all right, but I can't tell you a lot." Right?
Well, and the things
and then
that
he
I
told an
know,
innocuous conversation about, the photographer that's, he invited to teach his class, right?
yeah. But the information that I have is that we were never in danger, and that's why I didn't really have a problem with this to begin with, because I knew that they had them surrounded like literally across the country because there were so many dangerous white supremacists in that group. Pat King was one of them. The organizers that did there, and it's this woman named Candace Malcolm from True North, Proud or something like that. Like all these degenerate racists, which he pointed out, were the people that fomented this. And then as soon as all the Nazi flags came out, they're like, it's no big deal. It's only like five Nazis showed up. I'm like, fuck, weird, because I've got pictures like this where it show like 1,000 Nazis. This thing, like a lot of Nazis and a lot of racist people. But back to the fun stuff. These guys won the fucking weekend, right? See these two dudes? One guy's in a sweater. He's telling everybody uncut and unvaxxed. That's what it says on his sweater, which means he is not circumcised nor is he vaccinated.
Thanks for clearing that up.
This other beauty, he's got a shirt that says "No vaxxed chicks," and a lot of women replied to this tweet that I put out with this picture, and they're like, "Don't worry about it.
You're good."
Plus, the guy on the left, doesn't he just look like one of those guys where if you shaved off the beard, he'd be the weakest, dopiest, and like wimpiest looking guy ever? He's one of those guys.
What's the move? I've never understood the sweatshirt like string move, like pulling on that. What is that? I've never gotten that. Is that a sexy thing?
It's I don't know. I think he just wants people to see his sweet shirt that says, "I'm not into vax chicks." Well, guess what? Chicks aren't into you too, bro.
What is in their pouches that's causing the issue there? Like what?
Beard
cocaine,
hair.
Probably cocaine, I would say. There's a lot of coke this weekend too. A buddy of mine lives in Ottawa, and he's like, he went down just for the fun, just to walk around, and he's like, everyone was drunk and people were just doing coke out in the open.
What? Really?
Oh yeah, a lot of people.
Sounds about right.
When I say everyone was drunk, I mean a lot. Well, dude, we saw it. Like Karima talked to two people the other day when we were doing that live show. Both of them shithoused.
Again, I want to make sure I say this out loud for representation purposes.
Yeah.
If I was there, I would have been drunk.
Yeah, for sure you would have been.
If I was there, I probably would have done rails.
Thanks, James.
Can I ask you guys a question about? And I know that we're going late, and I don't mind if you guys don't mind. I got another few minutes in me because I want to talk about this Joe Rogan Spotify Neil Young fight. You want to talk about it?
For sure.
Yeah.
So, as we all know, Neil Young, Canadian, Joni Mitchell, Canadian, pulled their music from Spotify over the weekend.
Yeah.
They said to Spotify, it's Rogan or us. First it was Neil, then it was Joni Mitchell. And because they didn't respond to Neil, this is my take, didn't respond to Neil in time and Joni in time, they were like, fuck you, we're pulling our stuff, which is totally their right. And the reason why they were pulling their stuff is because they have a real problem with Joe Rogan's disinformation campaign. Now, Joe Rogan actually spoke on the weekend. Did you guys watch his 9-minute diatribe?
I did.
I did not. And
it was great.
It was about this.
Yeah, it was great. I'll play a couple minutes here.
Okay,
he addressed it, and then we're just going to talk about the whole idea that you can put a company like Spotify over the barrel. By the way, it costs Spotify 12% of their market value. Just so you know,
which is like
$4
billion, right, or something.
Billions, yeah.
And that's just stock shit, right?
Totally. But I'm going to play you this video. This is Joe Rogan addressing the whole thing, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. Watch this. It's
lot of people that have a distorted perception of what I do, maybe based on sound bites or based on headlines of articles that are disparaging. The podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about 2 episodes, a little bit about some other ones, but specifically about 2. One with Dr. Peter McCullough and one with Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Peter McCullough is a cardiologist, and he is the most published physician in his field in history. Dr. Robert Malone owns 9 patents on the creation of mRNA vaccine technology and is at least partially responsible for the creation of the technology that led to mRNA vaccines. Both these people are very highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion that's different from the mainstream narrative. I wanted to hear what their opinion is. I had them on, and because of that, those episodes in particular, those episodes were labeled as being dangerous. They had dangerous misinformation in them. The problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact. If you said, I don't think cloth masks work, you would be banned from social media. Now, that's openly and repeatedly stated on CNN. If you said, I think it's possible that COVID-19 came from a lab, you'd be banned from many social media platforms. Now, that's on the cover of Newsweek. All of those theories that at one point in time were banned were openly discussed by those 2 men that I had on my podcast that have been accused of dangerous misinformation. I do not know if they're right. I don't know, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a person who sits down and talks to people and has conversations with them. Do I get things wrong? Absolutely, I get things wrong, but I try to correct them. Whenever I get something wrong, I try to correct it because I'm interested in telling the truth.
Thoughts? It was 9 minutes. Let me just also say after that, he talked about how he welcomes, because what's happened in the last day, Spotify is going to put warning labels for COVID stuff on things saying these are not medical experts. Talk to your medical doctor, talk to your physician about COVID, talk to him about your health. Don't listen to these guys, that kind of stuff. And I'll give Joe Rogan some credit. He was like, I welcome it. I'm not a doctor. And I also want to give Joe, I want to address that in a minute. I also want to give Joe a little bit of credit because what Joe said after that was, listen, I need to do more balanced shit. That was my mistake. And going forward, I'm going to. Like, if I have a guy like Robert Malone on, I'll put a competing opinion on the next day because I want to know more. And he actually apologized. Like, he actually said, I'm sorry.
He hasn't done that lately.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
That I think it's I didn't like the way he kind of propped up the opinion that got him into trouble as much as he did, but whatever, that's a little nitpicky. I liked everything else. I think what he said was true about the things that were like off limits to discuss a year and a half ago that are no longer. Yeah. The lab leak was a good example of that. The cloth masks is a good example of that as well.
He's wrong about the vaccines. I've heard from day one that this is a protection. It's the best protection we have.
He played that
not
down.
a silver fucking bullet.
Like,
but
in
the
that,
thing
in
that
that
he did
video, and let me just pop in real
okay.
quick and then I'll pop back out. In that video, and this is what I wanted to address, as nice as the rest of the video was, as right as he was, as much as he looked like he was capitulating, he absolutely is playing down. From what I've heard of his show, which isn't very much, Locke, you would know more than me. He's playing down his involvement in spreading disinformation. Like, he was telling people, don't get the shot if you're 21, just take vitamin D. Like, I specifically remember those clips. But he is right. Like, I don't watch a show and I don't listen to a show unless there's something that I want to listen to because we're going to have a Joe Rogan type break or we're going to talk about Joe Rogan. It's all sound bites. And so, in my opinion, he played it down. I like what he said. Didn't mean to interrupt you. My apologies, James.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, everything. I agree with everything you just said. I think also that we should start to come to the fact that we do kind of put a microscope now on every single thing that the guy who talks more than all of us says. So it is like, I'm not saying that I feel bad for him or that we're being unfair to him or anything, but like, you know, even the Neil Young thing. Isn't it true that like we ended up finding out that he didn't like say it's fucking Joe Rogan or me? He just said, I don't want to be on your platform because of the shit that you support. I don't think he ever like, you know.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, how this is all, how this got presented to Spotify might be in question. Here's what I do think I know. I know enough about Neil Young to know that I think he's a bit of a dick.
Oh,
and
geez, yeah.
I think what he did was, I think he wrote a letter of concern to Spotify, and maybe in the letter suggested that he doesn't want to be a part of a platform that is promoting Joe Rogan based on what Joe Rogan says. And I think what Spotify did was they kind of took the position of power, which they have at the moment, and said, well, you can go fuck yourself. Now, the problem, I think the mistake that Spotify may have made in not trying to appease Neil Young is, and I knew this would happen. I fucking called this when this story came out. I said, other people are going to get in line. And then all of a sudden we got a Pied Piper, and they're going to start. And the reason why I said that wasn't because I think that Joe Rogan and Spotify needs to be taken down. It's because I know how artists feel about Spotify. They
get ripped off by Spotify.
Hate this company. All of them.
Yeah.
Not just the small guys, but everybody. They all hate Spotify. And they realize it as a necessary evil to help promote their careers. But here's a guy, doesn't need them. Joni Mitchell doesn't need them. The list is going to continue to grow. And I don't know who's jumping into the bandwagon or not, because some of it is, I think it's just memes and stuff. And I haven't had time to actually look at a meme or look at a post and go, okay, is Billy Joel next? And all these other, I don't know.
Dave Grohl was rumored to be in that group
Yeah.
of people that want to leave Spotify too.
Here's the thing. These guys they have a lot of power. They have individual power, and combined, they have a lot of power, and they could take this fucking platform down if enough artists jump on the bandwagon. And now that's why Joe Rogan is sitting
Damage
there
control?
in his back
Yeah.
fucking yard posting a 9-minute video. Not
Dude,
because
part of that
he
video
wants
too, he
to.
was like, I love Neil Young, I love Joni Mitchell, love them both, totally get it.
Oh,
You know-
yeah. He has
yeah,
to say that.
do you
Spotify
know
is
how-
fucking worried right now. They're
Yeah.
fucking
I feel like
worried.
they are worried, and I think that if I were to bet, because I think his contract is coming up soon, that maybe the one who ends up walking away is Joe Rogan. You know, maybe they give him a little bit of a parachute, and they're like, "Well, your 2-year contract is up, so here's $30 million. Sorry, but our shares are now down 20%."
And
That
you
was
know what?
4
though?
years. Was it 4 years, 100 million that he got?
I
I think it was
honest-
4.
Honestly, though, James, it might not
mistake.
be the worst thing for him or Spotify.
Oh, dude, he can go and do anything. Like, let
Yeah.
me just read you the
No,
story.
but he was
and
so
this is
much
the
better before Spotify. He really
Yeah. I
was.
think
he was.
Before all
well,
these
dude, he's
controversies,
got
like
he grows by tens of thousands of followers a month because of this. Like, don't think it's not lost on him, the PR that he's getting, and all the people that are listening
Yeah,
to
it
see
might
what he
work that
says
way, too.
next, listening because they believe him, want to support him. Like, there's a huge I stand with Joe Rogan movement. Anyway, these are the details of the story. Spotify loses $4 billion in market value this week after Neil Young called out the company for allowing Joe Rogan to use its services to spread misinformation. As of the end of day Friday, January 28th, shares of Spotify were down 12% from where they were closed last week, according to NASDAQ. Against a broader index, it was flat over the same period. The hashtags, this is what it really hurt them. I talked to a couple of people there on the weekend. Hashtags delete Spotify and cancel Spotify also gained traction on social media, with many websites offering step-by-step instructions for users to remove their app from their devices.
And move over to other streaming services. That's the big thing right now, right? Like, you can take your playlists
Right.
and dump them over to Apple. And Apple's
wait,
like,
you need
whoop.
instructions? You need
Yeah.
instructions to delete
Well,
an app?
there's
Just
a lot
go
of
with your
people out
thumb and
there.
hit the
Fuck.
X?
Did you not see what happened in Ottawa this weekend?
Sloth's granddaughter, right?
I don't want to lose all my playlists.
Yeah. Spotify took down nearly all Neil Young's music on Wednesday, January 26, 2 days after the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer musician reportedly issued the streaming service an ultimatum via his management recording company. They can have Rogan or Young, not both. Now.
Oh, wow. They did spell it out like that, did they? Is
Yes.
that an accurate quote? Okay.
Well,
Yes.
I don't know about.
Corrected.
I think that came after the letter. I think Neil Young had somebody write a letter to Spot. Am I wrong?
His lawyer. No, so his lawyer wrote a letter, and those words were absolutely in the letter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The controversy erupted after Rogan featured Malone, which we talked about on his podcast. Spotify has recently become a very damaging force via its public misinformation and lies about COVID. Young wrote in that letter, posted on his website, most of the listeners hearing unfactual, misleading, and false COVID information on Spotify are 24 years old, impressionable, and easy to swing to the wrong side of the truth. He's fucking right. A group of doctors and scientists also circulated a petition online calling Spotify to adopt policies to prevent the spread of misinformation on their platform. Spotify said in a statement last week it removed 20,000 podcast episodes related to COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. But so far, the company has stood by Rogan, who's reportedly paid more than $100 million. He attracts, and this is the key, this last sentence. Rogan attracts 11 million users per episode, while Young brings in 6 million users per month.
Yeah.
That is why they stood by Joe Rogan. It was legitimately a numbers game at the end of the day, and
Isn't it
that number,
money. Yeah. But isn't it interesting how Joe Rogan signs a contract with Spotify for $100 million. He goes there, gets into some controversies. The company sides with him because he's their golden goose. And then all of a sudden it gets too controversial and their stakeholders are like, holy fuck, 12%. So now, I don't know, Joe, if you can draw a direct line from the Neil Young situation to the shares dropping and it continues to kind of go like that, he could get another million users a month and it wouldn't matter because the share price is tanking. So he would have to get fired.
Yeah.
Ding. James, I'm telling you, money talk. Every time anybody has ever done anything awful on the air in radio, and we can draw a parallel, and you go, how did they not get fired? It wasn't until they started to impact the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same. Every time somebody gets shit canned, they go, well, what do you think of what he said, Locke? And I went, it doesn't matter what he said. It got to a point where it started to impact the dollars that were coming into the building, and somebody pulled the pin because they want people to listen. And sometimes those controversial opinions and those crazy things that these asshole radio people say bring listeners in. And as long as it doesn't affect the bottom line, they're going to be fine. Now, Joe Rogan is in trouble. Why? Joe Rogan's making some 9-minute speech in his backyard next to his smoker and his chickens. He's making that speech because Spotify is losing money. That's the only reason. They don't even give a flying fuck about what Neil Young's letter said. They don't care about his fucking content on his show. None of it matters to them. It is all about the fucking money. And that's it. That's it.
Yep.
Bottom line, money.
Yeah, man. That's what it is. But what do we think of the warning labels? First of all, I'm a big fan of warning labels. I really am. I don't have a problem with the warning label being on ours. And let me just also point out the hypocrisy.
We need one
here.
on ours.
So we just signed it, and I was told not to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. We just signed a deal with Spotify here at DeanBlundell.com. Now it's an ad deal. It's not a content.
Love you, Spotify. What up? Sorry.
No. Do you remember a couple weeks ago when Joe Rogan was on Spotify? He was like, I can suck my own dick. I get right in there. I can stick
It wasn't
my
a
own
couple
dick
weeks
right in my
ago,
mouth.
but I heard that episode.
Yeah. So we get a letter back from Spotify saying, all of these podcasts you have are beautiful, wonderful. We can sell them all. Here's the CPM. Here's other stuff. However, the one podcast happens to be our biggest, happens to be this one. Hundreds of thousands of downloads. They're like, it's a little too rude for us, so we won't be paying you, but we do want the content.
Oh, I'm
no
sorry.
word of a lie. So we want your podcast to live on Spotify because you guys do a ton of downloads, but we just can't pay this guy because he's too rude. And I was laughing because I thought to myself, that's crazy because Joe Rogan, who's like the flagship dude at that show, he talked about how he sucked his own dick for 10 minutes.
Hold on, no.
And it was very funny.
No.
I'm dying to know what episode it was. I'm dying to know what episode it was.
No,
okay,
I don't know what it is. Ours or that
think
one?
I could
No,
be
ours.
wrong.
Oh, it was all of them. They
Oh,
go through. They've
just
got like
in
a group
general,
of people. And they
James.
listen to it. Yeah, it's
We're
super
rude
funny.
every day. Okay,
Wait a
now
second.
here,
They're not going to
can I-
monetize us because we're rude?
Yeah.
You're not going to fire me, are you?
No,
Okay,
no,
good.
no, no. We
James,
just take our
you
business
can't get
elsewhere.
fired when you don't get paid.
Yeah, that's true, but still, I want to. I just
You can get
know,
asked
I don't
to
want I
leave.
don't want to say anything too rude. I want to buck up and do what the corporate master wants me to do, man. I need to get paid.
Oh no, we do have work to do when it comes to not saying certain things, and you would be at the front of that list for
Oh,
sure.
don't be a cunt.
Well, well, listen. If this is a horse race, and you got a nose ahead of Dean and I, we're not far behind you, James.
Good.
Okay, so I heard that episode, and what it
Yeah.
was, and I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was a table around. He does a round table thing with comedians, and I think it was a Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura type situation.
Yeah, it was a couple
and-
comedians. Yeah.
and I have a memory of it because it was kind of shocking to hear him say this. Not shocking. It was kind of funny, and it just stuck with me. But they were talking about how limber they all are, and hey, can I touch my toes and and I do yoga and I don't, and I work out. And somebody in the room said, Joe, I've worked out with you, and you are surprisingly limber for an old guy who works out as much as he does. And he goes, yeah, I've been doing, this and that and and I do a lot of stretching. And somebody said,
No, he was
it might have
talking
been
about how
Ari.
he can shave when he shaves his nuts. He like bends over and he gets his head right in there. And then he said, "Dude, I could suck my own dick if I wanted."
yeah,
and they're
he
like,
did.
Really?
No, someone asked him, do you think you could suck your dick? And he said, you know what? I've never actually done it, but I think I probably could if I worked at it.
No.
That
He even
was the
like,
comment.
It gets,
I
he
swear to
even
God,
was like
Dean.
doing this with his face. He's like, I can get it right around here. And I'm like, who does that?
I would do
does
that
that?
if I
Who's-
could.
I'm
Oh,
sure
fuck.
you would. Oh, when
If
I say
I
who does
could,
that,
and
I
I'm
know.
stroke
getting
the penis all
closer.
the time.
I'm getting
What's the
closer
difference,
all the
really, at the end
time.
of the day?
I'm going to be popping my thing in my mouth if I can get
That's
down
right.
that
'cause
low.
have you guys not seen that Suki and Lee? Remember Suki and Lee? Remember her movie
Don't judge
Short
me.
Bus?
No.
Short Bus was the movie with Suki and Lee, the former Much Music VJ, and it was like almost like a porn, and it was like a film festival movie, and her boyfriend in the movie did that move where you like get on your back and you put your legs up against the wall and
Happy
you put
Baby.
your legs sort of over your head, and it's like the pressure of the wall and the floor result in like your back being able to loosen up all the way, and this guy in this movie sucked his own dick in that position. So I'm pretty sure if he can do it, we all can. And we should film it and sell it on the internet for money.
This is why Spotify won't pay us, James. Exactly
I
what
know.
I'm just talking
That's
about.
why I'm doing it.
You took a bit of a lead again.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you're off in the horse race of
You know,
It's
these
you.
things would go over better if you guys would just give a courtesy giggle or something. Because sometimes,
You know what? Normally
that-
I do, but this one just was so far off, like the third baseline, that I just was like, okay, got to do.
I'd be
gotta do
willing
James.
to do a video, James.
I can't work with anyone anymore. Yeah, go
James,
ahead.
here's where we can have some common ground. I'd be willing to do a video between how many people on the regular contributors to the Dean Blundell podcast that we do at 1-ish Mountain Standard Time daily. Bonzi, Ryan, James, Dean, myself. Am I missing anybody? No. Okay. So those are the sort of the 6 main guys, right?
Okay.
I would be willing to do a video where we got into a position on the floor to see who might be the closest.
This is the dumbest
Okay.
shit I ever heard in my whole
See?
life.
Fuck you, Dean. He's on my
Honestly,
side.
That
Baby.
is the dumbest shit I ever heard.
not
I
gonna
have no
stick my
desire
penis
to do a
in my
video. I
No,
have
you don't
no
have to.
desire to do a flexibility video to see who's the most flexible out
to
of
see who
all
would
five
be the
of us.
closest to sucking
Sounds
his
like
dick.
you wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to suck your own dick, Dean.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting out of this too, James. Yeah.
Hey, boys, thanks for doing this. It was great to see you both. Appreciate
Recovery.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, not bad. That is Lachlan Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton is where you can find him. Lachlan Cross on Twitter, at Lachlan Cross. Lach will be on the air tomorrow morning. You can listen to him live. Just log online. What's the website? www what?
Stop it.
No, I don't know what it is. That's why I'm asking.
Stop it.
It's saved in my
I
bookmark.
know where this goes.
No, I want to know.
I know
not
how
gonna
you
say
feel
anything.
about my other show.
I want to know the URL.
No, you're gonna shit on it. I can feel it coming.
I swear, bud.
I'm
I
on the
swear
radio.
I'm not. Yeah,
We're on the World Wide Web too.
Google 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton and listen
Google
live,
locker
bud.
room. Hashtag
Actually,
locker
it
room.
might come up if it's Google locker room
Yeah,
too.
look
I
at-
don't know. I don't know. how that works.
Or pictures of guys doing other stuff will come up. If you
Stop
Google
it.
locker room too. You know that. Anyway,
Put your backs
James
against the
DeFiore,
wall.
Blackballed the podcast is where you can find him. Apple,
Thanks.
Google, Spotify, etc. Blackballmedia.ca. Great interview with Terry Molesky, by the way, today. It was great.
Thank you. And I have your favorite hockey player, Sean Avery, on Thursday. So
Say hi to him for me. He loves
I will.
me.
I'll
Sean,
open the show like that to see if I can break a record for how
Sean
quickly
Avery
a guest
when?
leaves. Thursday.
Thursday?
Okay.
At 11 a.m. Mountain.
Are you
time.
going live with those?
Oh, yeah.
All of them. Yeah.
Oh, now? Okay, I thought you were still pre-recording. Okay.
I haven't never
No, no,
pre-recorded
go live.
one. I don't think.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, they're great.
That's good
Does
to
a
know.
fucking great job. James DeFiore's Blackballed the podcast. Anywhere
They
you
look
find
like you
podcasts.
record them and then clean them up and then release them. Good job.
He's
I'm
that
James.
good.
just that good. I mean, Chris is just that good.
Thanks, boys. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care, man.
All right, take care. That's Locke. That's James. They are gone for the day. They're going to go and make dinner. I'm going to do the same thing. Have a whiz. Have a great day, everybody. Be good. Really appreciate you being here today. Thanks to Mubin Sheikh for just stopping by. Thanks to Craig Forrest for stopping by. Thank you to you for coming by as well. Don't forget you can get everything we do by downloading DeanBlundell.com on your front page of your phone. Progressive web app. Bring up the website. It'll say add it to the home page. Do it for us. It'd be great if you did. Also, you can find us on YouTube if you're listening to this on Apple, Google, Spotify, etc. You can find us YouTube, Dean Blundell Show on YouTube or Twitch. You can see this whole thing live and enjoy all the videos that we play that you don't get a chance to see, only hear, by going to Twitch, Dean Blundell TV on Twitch. Thanks to our friends at Ed's Fine Imports. His Gitch are the best underwear for men, boxer briefs, luxury, pouch in the front as well. If you order 3 pairs, he'll send you another pair for free. You got to use promo code GITCH and then the number 3. edsfineimports.com, clothing for men and boys. He's my friend. He's a Canadian too. Support Canadian businesses. Order some Gitch from edsfineimports.com. Thanks to domination.com for making it easier for us to do content. You can do the same thing. It's AI that is built for content providers, podcast, gaming, etc. Promos and legacy content you can do in minutes instead of hours. It's incredible. Try them for free today. Go to domination.com. DMNTN.com is where you can find them. Again, try them for free today. Domination.com. Dominate with your content. And last but not least, of course, Easy Auto Financial. Our friends over at Easy Auto Financial are really good at getting people financing. It doesn't matter who you are, how your credit rating looks. They will take care of you, and they do not charge you for that financing as well. If you're in the market for a new car, these guys are the best. They're like ninjas. The only group in Canada that does what they do, make it turnkey. They can do that for you. They'll make sure you get the car you want, the financing you want, at the rate you want. Go to easyautofinancial.ca today and sign up. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate you being here. And don't stress. Don't stress over the shit that goes on around you that you can't control. Don't worry about Ottawa. Our country's too resilient for this shit. When I say resilient, I mean like we know when we're done. And I'm seeing it analytically. We know the 90% are fucking tired of your shit. So it's coming again. Anyway, restrictions down today across the country by and large. We're going to head back into it. I want you to be positive. Have a great day, everybody. Really appreciate you showing up. See you soon. Bye.